Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us again. It's probably our third or fourth event with Google. So this time we wanted to combine our networks with Oxford University to support their inspiring female founders initiation. So very happy to have you all here. We prepared a full packed agenda for you. Obviously, we have time until 9 p.m., but this is going to be the agenda. We will have some female founder showcases, some panel discussions, some ecosystem insights, and some pizza and drinks. So bear with us. And then to get us started, I would like to invite Pınar to the stage, who is the professor of Oxford Entrepreneurship Center. I think you will, take over from there. That wasn't the title.
Thank you so much, Eda, and it's such a pleasure to see how our community is growing by getting together, and that's exactly what we want to do. We don't want to create a separate community. We want to create a community that is worldwide, that is connected, and that helps founders. Still, the numbers are very small. For every 5 male founders, there's 1 female founder. And of all the money that comes to founders in the world, only 2 to 3% comes to women. So we need to change that, and this is exactly why we're here. And today we're going to do AI, which is so close to my heart. Let me tell you a little bit about the Oxford Entrepreneurship Center. We are not there to help our students found firms, but we are there to support entrepreneurship worldwide. And as part of that, about 2 years ago, we started this initiative, which is called Inspiring Female Founders, IFF. This is our 3rd event, and we are grateful for Google Cloud and Tenity to be our partners, and also for our amazing sponsors who made the drinks and the food possible tonight. So thank you so much for being with us and supporting us. What we're trying to do is, in addition to these events that bring people together and for founders to find investors and for investors to scout all of the amazing women who are trying to do something different, we're also writing their cases, which is really what the pedagogical contribution of Oxford. So we're trying to create as many free cases as possible for everyone to read. I have a 13-year-old daughter who loves to read these cases, so I want her to understand it, but I also want someone who got bored of their corporate job, after 20 years, and who wants to start something to find both inspiration and something to learn from these cases across sectors, across regions. And so if you can support us by making sure that you tell us which founders are amazing and that we should write about, and also to come to our events and to connect us to the rest of the world so that our cases are read in India and in Latin America and in Alaska, everywhere. So that's all from me. Again, thank you, and I hope you enjoy tonight. And what I want to do, let me see if Emma is in the room.
Not here, but maybe we
Okay, we'll give her, exactly. I think let's do that. Let's move to Kingsley and Napley, one of our sponsors, to tell us a little bit about themselves and what they're doing for female founders. Thank you so much.
Hi everybody, my name's Christopher Perrin, and this is Ilda D'Souza. We're both partners at a law firm called Kingsley and Napley, and together we lead the firm's cross-firm technology group. I'm also head of the commercial technology team. As you may know, we're a full-size, full-service law firm located in Shoreditch. We've been around for quite a long time. We work with clients in all different sectors, but we have a particular focus on technology, which is why tonight we're very excited to be here. We regularly work with entrepreneurs like yourselves, and I think tonight, focusing on AI, it's really redefining how we work, creating and solving problems, and in particular female founders as well, whose leadership is really, really important to the sector. So on behalf of Kingsley and Napley, I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight and supporting it, and we're very proud to support the work that you're doing. I'll hand over to Ilda to say a few words.
Thank you, Chris, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, as Chris has said, for the opportunity here. I practice corporate immigration law, so I predominantly work very much with corporates looking to set up in the UK, founders in the tech sector, also working with individuals, foreign nationals, as you can imagine, looking to come to the UK. And I do see a lot of inward investment in terms of the tech sector, but as Chris has said, and as Pinar has pointed out in her presentation, there are very few women. But I will say the reports that I certainly found, and I'm very happy to quote them, do suggest that, you know, women running, female founders running businesses, even in the fintech sector, are more productive. So I think there's more to be done, but I'm very pleased that you have allowed us the opportunity to be here today and to sponsor you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris and Hilda. So, until Emma is here, I would like to use my time to tell you a bit about Tenity and what we do. I will see familiar faces from our portfolio companies, from our investor network, but I will just keep it short to tell you what we do and how we support founders. So we have started in Zurich as an innovation arm of Swiss Stock Exchange. Then we start investing in early stage fintech companies. Currently we have 6 offices around the globe, including London, Singapore, and across Europe. As of today, we have 292 portfolio companies and managing 140 million AUM. On top of investing, we also ran some corporate innovation programs. So I forgot to mention about our portfolio. So this is just a quick snapshot of our technologies, segments, and verticals. As you could see, we are very diversified, but it's all about fintech. We do a little bit insurtech and Web3 as well. So as a part of our corporate innovation projects, as I mentioned, we have worked with more than 70 corporates globally. And as you could see some name here, UBS, Six, Ripple, they're also invested in our funds, so they're LPs. And we constantly run some startup challenges, hackathons, and accelerator programs for them. We have been ranked one of the first active investors in fintech in Europe by Sifted. So that's a quite good sign of our success. So please, use the QR code to sign up our newsletter. We will share a lot of news about our events, investments, activities in London and global. Our managing partner, Khan, is also here in the room. So please come and say hi if you want to ask about our investment strategy or any projects that we're doing in London. So that's all from me. Emma is here. Maybe, Emma, if you want to use a couple of minutes to tell about your programs. Here you go, stage.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to be hosting you today. I'm going to keep it short and sweet because I think you've got a packed agenda, but I just wanted to say thank you. So I head strategic partnerships for Google Cloud, so I take care of Barclays, NatWest, anyone that's interested in innovation. And we have a fantastic Google Cloud Startup Program. I think there's a few founders here who are on the program. Pop your hand up if you are on the Google Cloud Startup Program. Okay, awesome. If you have angel investment, you get 25K in Google Cloud credits. If you have VC backing, and you can go on the scale tier, so that's 100K or 250K in Google Cloud credits. If you scan this QR code, then I will help introduce you to someone in the team, and I'll let you carry on with the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being very efficient. Okay. Now, Mitch, are you around? I will invite you to the stage for our next session, which is going to be a female founders showcase. Yes, she's here. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Meriç Sevgeren. I'm one of your hosts tonight and an alumna of the Saïd Business School, as well as the Inspiring Female Founders Champion. About a year and a half ago, I had the opportunity of a lifetime to join inspiring female founders and explore how we could expand our support beyond Oxford and reach female founders across the world. The goal was very simple but ambitious: to better source, champion, and elevate women in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I honestly could not have asked for a better role. As the IFF champion, I get to meet extraordinary women building extraordinary things every single day. And before we kick off our Female Founder Showcase, where you'll hear from 4 incredible women building in artificial intelligence, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our amazing IFF volunteers, who are all Saïd Business School MBA students with us in the room today. So Alex, Kaveri, Louisa, Vivian, thank you so much. This today wouldn't be possible without you. And with that, let's get started. Please join me in welcoming our Female Founder Showcase. Enjoy.
Hello, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, to be hosted by Google, and to be surrounded by so many amazing female founders. Let me find the clicker. I'm really excited to tell you guys about Decima 2, where we are building a world where you will never waste marketing spend ever again. But first, I'd love to introduce myself. My name is Alexis Monks. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Decima 2. I have an undergrad in computer science and more recently my MBA from the University of Oxford, which it sounds like a lot of us have in the room, which is great. Throughout my career, I've worked on e-commerce, conversion rate optimization for some of the brands that I've put here on the slide. A notable career highlight was increasing the conversion rate by 20% on Mano Mano and 39% on co-op.com. But we're not here to talk about me, we're here to talk about AI. So, the marketing AI landscape is pretty overwhelming, particularly for SMBs who spend around 27 billion on digital ad spend, but can only manage it in around an hour a week. We have tools for ideation, different tools for creation, even more tools for execution, and entire suites for analysis and optimization. The problem here isn't a lack of tools. The problem is a lack of tool that manages the entire thing. So we built a model that makes it really, really simple. We build knowledge graphs rooted in your business context. And then we use our proprietary causal AI to pinpoint exactly what is driving results. So here you can see we've pinpointed 2 campaigns that have worked really well. So we double down on those campaigns, we expand them, and we create more ideas similar to those. Here the causal AI has identified some campaigns that aren't working so well. So we eliminate them, and we stop investing in ideas similar to those. And the results speak for themselves. We have decreased customer acquisition costs for our customers by 82%. So we're moving fast to build agentic decision-making for marketing spend. So far, we have bootstrapped a best-in-class causal AI for marketing. We've raised over 400K from backers at Hatch and Y Combinator, and we have multiple customers right now live reducing their cost of say that 10 times fast. Cost of customer acquisition. If you are a fan of causal AI, generative AI, marketing AI, even female founders perhaps, please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to hear from you all. Thank you.
Hello, this isn't the slide that I made, so I'm a little bit conscious about this. Hello, my name is Başak Yakış Douglas, and I'm one of 2 female founders of Oxalis. Oh, there we are, okay. During my second pregnancy, my son suffered from fetal growth restriction. He luckily survived, but now has to live with very significant disabilities. As you might imagine, this caused me to reshape my priorities almost entirely. And as a result, I got involved with local clinical research that was happening in Oxford University. And at the time, this was 17 years ago, and AI was very, very new. The Oxford clinicians were trying to build a technology that would predict and prevent fetal growth restriction. And my involvement with them ultimately led to this technology being commercialized now, and for me to co-found Oxalis. Next. In the UK, every day, we lose 8 babies to fetal growth restriction. We have a tool that can significantly reduce this. Our tool builds on 7,500 pregnancies that were hand-segmented data using 3 postdocs over 5 years. So when I say we use AI to build our neural network, it's not something that can be replicated overnight. The way that we trained our AI took 3 clinical studies, a lot of data, and a lot of sweat and tears. So we have a technology that clinicians can use to assess placental function. And in the UK alone, if it were to be deployed, every year we could prevent up to 269 stillbirths while saving the NHS £12.6 million. Our product is software only. It is very cheap, and it works perfectly with existing clinical workflows. It's massively scalable at very little additional cost. I'll go through this a little bit carefully. Our current product is in maternity, but our technology has applications in many clinical areas such as oncology and renal medicine. Independently, our serviceable marketable market rate is 52 million over 5 years, and globally it's just over 250 million. What have we done so far? We raised £7.5 million in grant funding only, because we're academics. Hello, PhD supervisors. We have industry partnerships with leading incumbents in the field, and we're looking for investors that are looking to support our passion and drive in bringing equality to women and babies in health research. So thank you for listening to Oxalis. We are 2 female founders in Femtech. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I'm a fast talker, so you have to keep up. And I have 3 minutes. So Neil and I are deep interactions. We are both Oxford human-centered computer science students in Oxford Computer Science. And we are targeting a problem most of us, if not all of us, have in this room, that you get really excited about an AI project and you train a lot of models, fine-tune, prompt, and pray, and it does not have the impact you thought it would have. And the problem is not the capability. AI models are the most capable today, ever since, at least I was born, we were born. But the problem here is usability. Like, there is not enough focus on the usability of AI. We are just like churning, vibe coding again and again and failing. So we are targeting to address this problem with human-centered AI infrastructure. So imagine like you have deep interactions in your Slack, in your Google Meets or Zoom, and it helps you and your team to collaborate and create AI. So you can go have deep interactions in a meeting, email it, WhatsApp it, and give it the data, the content, and the needs of your team and your end users. It co-designs and builds with you. You can collaborate with it in Figma or Cloud Code, Cursor if you want or not. And then it ships your AI product and then like lets you iterate again and again. So that's the dream vision. And you can now ask like, what magic is this? It's not magic, it's just math and engineering. So we have spent the past 5 years working in Oxford Computer Science on figuring out the usability of AI, so to speak. So we put together everything from explainable AI to reinforcement learning, human in the loop, and all of these methods, and made like AI that's actually very reliable and usable. So that's our USP. We are attacking the vibe coding market, which is already exploding and positioned like right among these people whom everyone is familiar with right now. I think I don't have time for our early stuff, but we kind of like went and talked with people like us, ML engineers working on AI products, and then figured out that the problem is bigger and we can't keep prompting to build the future. We need like collaboration and participation. So we did a few pivots to come here. Last year, like we started getting contracts and working with early stage startups. And this year, like we are going to do it 10x and grow. That's the plan. So we are 3 months old. We have booked 200K in contracts, working with early stage startups, including Maggie, who's going to come right after me. And I'm very interested to talk with people and their teams who are thinking about AI or having AI troubles today. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie Mustaklam. I'm the CEO and founder of PoolDeck. I am also an Oxford PhD student studying AI in design, well, finished studying AI in design. My Viva's next month at the Oxford Internet Institute. So PoolDeck, oh, this is a different version of my deck. Okay. So images aren't disorganized, they're unsupported. If we think about image infrastructure right now, we treat text has systems, data has infrastructure. Images, which are the backbone of modern brands, are still treated like files. So every day, there are 5.1 billion images created. That tiny little red sliver is AI generated. So just, we all think about AI as being, like taking over everything. That giant green graph is everything that's not created by AI every single day. Only 5.5 million, that teeny tiny thing at the bottom, is what's accessible by AI agents. So there's this huge gap in terms of what we are creating and what AI can use. And this is a $270 billion problem for both humans and AI. So PoolDeck is a visual content infrastructure platform. If we think about this, it's not a design tool. It is not a traditional DAM. And it is not an AI generator. So this is what it is not. What it is a place to contextualize your images. It's a place to develop a system of record, a system of meaning, and it's a place to make existing images usable. Sorry. So with this system, you can move from, oh, there's a screen over there. Sorry, guys. You can move from the pool where you collect all your images. This is things coming in from Figma, Slack, Drives. Once they're in the pool, they get contextualized. They get meaning, brand intent. They develop relationships. You can then search in natural language, and that moves into the deck. And when they're in the deck, you can work with your images spatially. You can start to deploy. And with this, you move from a scattered file system to an operational system. You move from a place where nothing has meaning, versions are lost, things are getting stuck in clouds and code bases, to a system of record or a system where everything has meaning, everything is centralized in one place. Again, this is infrastructure. This is not a design tool. I mean, I think when I talk about creative and creativity tools that we think this is another AI generating tool, but it's actually not that at all. It's serving a very different purpose. So this is built for teams. Our go-to-market is to go after teams where images are mission critical. This is teams that might have 100K in assets that they're working with frequently. So brand and creative ops teams, marketing teams, and any agencies managing multi-client systems. Primarily, this involves teams that are using Figma at the moment, but the market is massive. There are so many industries and places where people are working with huge, huge streams of visual content, and that's only growing as we, of course, add to the generative AI that we're using every day. In terms of traction, this was my PhD research. I worked with 125 designers to identify the problem and the pain point that everyone's experiencing. We have an early pilot that we're deploying in New York with Pentagram. And moving along. And just to kind of end, Nick Frost, who was the CEO of Cohere, just was quoted in the New York Times as saying that the most banal AI is where we're going to see the most transformative results. And I think about Pool Deck as someone has actually just recently described it as banal. And I was like, ouch. But actually, that's exactly the point. It's not supposed to be a sexy Gen AI tool. It's supposed to be infrastructure that's useful and usable on a daily basis. I'm a solo founder, but I also have an AI CTO who you've just heard from in the last pitch. And if you're excited about images and content and kind of developing a backbone for the huge amounts of content we deal with, come talk to me. Thanks.
All right, now it's time for our AI panel, and I would love to invite my dear panelists on stage. Join me, Brianna, Amanda. I don't know if Pippa is in there. Perfect, right on time.
I think she wants the moderator. Yeah.
Excellent, good. Yeah, I can stand, that's all right.
Do we want another Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Would you like us to change seats or something?
No, it's good. It really doesn't matter. As long as
we can put this one on here,
I'll
or the other side.
This they want you there.
I will. Okay.
They want moderators there.
All right. It seems like we have 3 mics. So
I'm mic'd, and you do.
Mic'd?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. I'm not. But we can perhaps you and I can share, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I'm going to speak much less than you anyway. So we have 4 amazing panelists from different sectors who have built AI businesses and are doing super well. So I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and what they're doing with their firm. Pippa, let's start with you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Pippa. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO at Renewed. We build AI technologies for the beauty industry. So that includes computer vision skin analysis, machine learning product recommendations, and then conversational AI kind of advisors, which we then license to brands and retailers to give specialist customer support to their online audience.
Amazing. Amanda.
Can you hear me? Does the mic work? I think it does, right? I think so. Okay. My name is Amanda Slavin. Can you hear me in the back? Yeah. Great. I am the founder of the Future Frequency. I also am the Chief Development Officer of a nonprofit called Learning Economy Foundation. We leverage open source nonprofit technology that allows for you to own your own learning data in any environment. It allows for you to be localized and self-sovereign with that learning data, leveraging a lifelong learning passport. And we use that as the backbone, as an infrastructure layer that allows for anyone to deeply engage with any learning content, any visual content, any IP in the most meaningful, personalized way through a methodology called the 7th level, which I could talk about until I'm blue in the face. So if you want to talk to me about the 7 levels later, please ask me about it. And also I did break out the movie When Harry Met Sally about it. So I can also even help you go on dates with the 7th level. That's my #1 priority tonight.
I have to say that Amanda is also helping us turn the inspiring female founder stories into an app, which is AI powered. So thankful for that.
Great. Thank you.
Brianna, over to you.
Hi everyone, Brianna. I'm the co-founder and CEO at the Evidence Company. It's an Imperial spin-out based on 2.5 years of AI research, especially in explainable AI, which I can talk more about it, as a lot of you know that the current LLM.
Someone's playing Lion King, which I'm super into, but I don't know if it's
exciting, but maybe.
But I do love that song. Just want to give you the space to be heard. There you go. Okay.
Thank you. As all of you know, that LLM we have encountered so far a lot of time is a black box AI. So what we do is to provide the explainable layer, which provides the reasoning and transparency for the user, especially in healthcare. So this is what we're trying to do with our team, building that trustworthy layer for clinical care. And previously, I'm an ecosystem builder in startup as well. I was previously a VC, especially in deep tech. So I work with actually a lot of Oxford founders, PhD. And so this time I'm working with Imperial PhD and researchers. So,
that's okay.
But we are all in London, which is great. It's the tech hub in Europe. And I'm very fortunate to be here. And it's great to be here with everyone coming from the ecosystem and female founders.
Thank you. Didem.
Thank you. Didem Ün Ateş, almost 15 years in AI space. I apologize, mostly with Microsoft, so 12 years in Microsoft. And for the last just over 2 years, I have my own AI advisory business for private equity firms and their basically we help them with their own internal AI transformation, their investment thesis, AI due diligence, responsible AI, guardrails, etc., as well as their portfolio companies. For example, Goldman Sachs is one of our clients and they have 300 portcos. So that's a bit different from rest of the team, but it's absolutely a pleasure to be here.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the introduction. I would love to start by what AI is doing for your industries and for your particular company. I mean, it's for all of you, it is a very important part of your business, and it means something different, and it can do different things in different industries. So if we could get started with that, I would love to understand how AI is changing your industry. Pippa.
Yeah, sure. So the beauty industry is sort of hugely complex and overwhelming. I think skincare in particular, there's so many ingredients, so many brands, products launching onto the market all the time. My background is a formulation chemist, so I've been in this industry for, well, including studying, nearly 20 years. And what we see from customers is that they are kind of going through this endless trial and error process. They read about an ingredient, they think it sounds good, they try and figure out if it's right for them. That figuring out process takes 1.7 hours for every product that they purchase. Then they buy it. Then in 62% of cases, they don't like it, and they have to do that all over again. So it really hasn't been working for consumers for a long time. And then on the brand side, you know, the risk is that someone buys something from their brand and they don't like it, and then they're right off that brand forever. There's just too many options on the market. So where AI has potential here, and what we're using it for, is really to solve that problem and get people to the right products and right advice first time. So the way we've approached this is through collecting a sort of proprietary data set of real skin experiences. So working with consumers, working with licensed estheticians who would recommend a complete skincare routine and then kind of follow that person's skin journey over time to validate, did those recommendations actually work for that individual? And if not, why not? Was it preference? Was it efficacy? And so that kind of allowed us to amass this huge data set with really a lot of inputs for an individual person within that journey to understand which combinations of products and ingredients work for which types of skin, and really validate that over time. So really what we're doing for consumers is saving them time, saving them money, and saving them all the frustration that comes with using loads of stuff that you don't end up getting on with and having a shelf full of products that are half empty that you then feel guilty about chucking away. And for brands and retailers, we're really solving the problem of getting that person to the products that they're going to love and buy again and again, whilst also reducing acquisition costs, increasing conversion, lifetime value, and all those kind of juicy B2B metrics that brands and retailers love.
Amazing. And I'll want to find out about the challenges in a little bit, but I want to move on to Amanda. Sure. What can AI do in learning?
I know the answer. So I do. I do need to just briefly talk about these levels of engagement because we have the wrong measure of success when it comes to learning. The problem is that we treat learners like productivity machines since the Industrial Revolution, and they will be outpaced and outproduced by machines if we do not actually change the way that we're thinking about success. World Economic Forum talks about the most important skills for the future, which are human skills, critical thinking, empathy, compassion, collaborative, being able to actually work with other humans, and also AI agents. But we're not teaching those skills, and again, we're not measuring success when it comes to those skills. So what's really important, first and foremost, and Demis Hassabis, I'll throw out his name. Does anyone know? He started DeepMind. We're in Google territory. I think we can, yeah. He talked about one of the most important skills in the face of AI is knowing how you learn, metacognition, knowing how you think, which actually increases student progress by 7 months. So what we've done in learning is that we think that we can make learners more productive through AI tutors or by replacing the teacher. By the way, has anyone ever had an incredible teacher that changed their life? Raise your hand. Okay, like every single person in the room. We cannot replace the human experience of a teacher. What we need to do is we need to start utilizing technology as a way for individuals to know themselves more, to reflect on information, to reflect on data, and utilize that data to make their experiences more meaningful in any learning environment. And so what we do with AI is, first of all, we actually, first and foremost, allow for the individual to own their own data in any environment. So this learning passport, this AI passport, plugs into any AI system. It actually gives them personalized data to the AI system that then can support that learner in any of these environments, but the learner owns that data. And that's really, really important for young people, because when young people start talking to ChatGPT or to AI, they start asking questions like, what's your name? How old are you? What's going on? And these kids don't think about inputs and outputs. It's so unbelievably important to teach young people that data is going to be their identity when technology is in our eyeballs, which is not that far away. And so by actually being able to put the learner at the center, having data be owned by the individual, and then personalizing every single environment, whether it's a video game with Roblox, whether it's a PDF report, whether it's a piece of content in Coursera, changing the way that that content is delivered, changing the way that that content is consumed, personalizing it to the individual in any learning environment, but letting the learner take that data with them and own it. That's the way that we're thinking about AI. More like a service animal, like a peer tutor. I don't know if you remember Clippy, Microsoft, I'm just saying Microsoft. Then actually creating an environment where the learner becomes passive and just becomes a productivity machine.
Absolutely, and especially for neurodivergence, I think this is a huge deal, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Brianna, what is AI doing? How is it changing your industry?
Well, we're solving one of the biggest problems in healthcare, which is workforce shortage. As we know, in UK, we're very proud of the NHS, but as you know, in secondary care, there's a long wait. And a lot of times, there's a lot of repetitive work that needs to be done, but we don't have enough people to do that. So what we are using is using AI to augment that process. For example, if you need to do a pre-procedure or post-procedure call, you don't really need to rely on the nurse anymore, because that's the waiting time, right? That's the 3 months waiting time. So then you get the AI to call you, and it's all very procedural. It's the same steps every single time when the nurse reach out to you and then call you. So we are replacing that, and we're trying to make sure that the wait time is less, but in both the public and private healthcare. So we are now focusing most on the gut health. We're trying to start with one area because there are so many different places we can utilize this technology. And so far, we have really good success, mostly because a lot of the time, the healthcare providers, they're not just looking for a technology, they are also looking for reliability, because they don't want the AI without a safeguard and without reasoning, and then give the patient wrong advice. And in this case, when I say wrong advice, it's just information, right? It's not diagnosis. So we have to ensure that it's benchmarked, it's validated, and it's been tested and is safe to provide to different health domains.
Amazing, thank you. And Didam, how is AI changing the private equity business?
Thank you. So before I started my own business, I was working on Microsoft's largest AI engagements across all industries, mostly Fortune 500 companies. So all of these examples are so real to me. Thank you for sharing. In terms of financial services and private equity, as in with any industry, as you heard from my peers here, a successful AI transformation is only possible if we look at the whole value chain holistically. This is not experimentation. This is not about doing an exciting POC here and there, because that's not going to scale. It's just going to be isolated experiment, expensive, time-consuming, and usually frustrating. So same with financial services, private equity. It covers the whole chain of how we do investments, like sourcing the investments, the deals, how we do the transaction, post-transaction, portfolio management, etc. So this is what we help our clients with. You asked the question, how is it changing? I think to me, it's very meaningful. I absolutely love what I do, simply because not only is it helping with doing better deals, bigger deals, or higher quality, etc., investment efforts, but also from a responsible AI, putting the guardrails, because the whole essence of finance is managing risk. What could go wrong with this company that I'm putting my money in? And of course, AI can help and hurt at the same time. So many companies don't understand, like, it's very easy to talk about AI value creation plans, realization, this and that with your portcos and portfolio. But when people understand, oh my goodness, I actually need to govern not only my own risk internally, but my whole portfolio, which can be billions of assets under management, that's a massive change. And it requires talent transformation, which brings me to my last point. Like, not only are we talking about AI adoption and training, etc., but actually, if I'm now saving 10 hours a week from this investment tool or AI relations tool, what am I going to do with those 10 hours? Am I going to do more deals, better deals, or am I going to expand in a new domain? These are the things and this is why actually I came in from a private equity event, bridging big tech with private equity. That's a completely different fun change that I'm also experiencing.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's also a challenging time to be in, and particularly when we're talking about data access, training the models, and on the other side, we're talking about selling the AI to customers, right? And I want to touch on both. So let's start with data and data access and, data responsibilities, data governance. These are huge issues, and in all of your industries, this means a different thing. So let's start first with that. And if I could, again, start with Pippa, and then we'll mix it up a little bit. What does data access mean to you? You talked about all the data that you acquired, which of course gives you a core competence and it gives you a competitive advantage, but it's also a challenge to acquire that data. Can you tell us a little bit about that data journey?
Yeah, sure. So we started our journey like 5.5 years ago now, or 5 years ago. Actually, no, nearly 6. Yeah. And so there was, I think the AI conversation has hugely accelerated since then. And really at the time, my co-founder is a data scientist, so it was always the plan to build AI. And our approach was, okay, we need the data first, then we need the subject matter expertise input, and then we can build the models eventually. So we started our product as a B2C offering. So that really allowed us to not only understand our customer, I think that's kind of, if you have a B2B2C model and you only have the interaction with the business, it's actually really hard to get into the mind of the end user. So that was kind of one motivation, but the second was actually building the data set that we wanted. So we wanted, images of the skin. We wanted to be able to validate our recommendations over time, which meant we needed to own that customer relationship. We needed to track that customer skin over time. We wanted to get their inputs on, feedback on every single product that they'd chosen, how they self-assessed their skin changes, how we saw the changes in the images. So it was this kind of really comprehensive data set that we felt was necessary to ensure the highest accuracy, and the only way to get that was to work directly with consumers. So that's what we did for the first few years before we even kind of started building the AI, even though that decision was made from day one in order to most effectively build that later down the line. So definitely not the fastest approach, but for us to really solve this problem properly, that's what we kind of had to do. And then in terms of our kind of data labeling approach, so my background is as a formulation chemist, and then we worked with dermatologist advisors to define the labeling guidelines, because obviously that's, having the data is one thing, but having data that's labeled accurately is really kind of essential. So, and with skin, it's really complex. There's lots of things that can happen with the skin at lots of severities in lots of combinations, and then we've got lots of skin tones to consider. So really having that large enough data set to start with, and then having relevant subject matter expertise. And that was really essential for us. So working with estheticians, dermatologists, and formulation chemists to really input there. So all of our images were labeled by medical professionals, just to ensure that kind of really highest level of accuracy before we even started thinking about training models.
And in fact, you took a lot of time to build that data set through B2C, which shows just how difficult it is to get the data part right. Because you could go to B2B at first, but then you have to have a product to sell them. And if you don't have their data, you have nothing to sell. And so there's a bit of a chicken and egg there. And B2C solves that problem, but it takes a long time.
Yeah, and also because we are capturing personal data, and obviously when you're B2B, you are not the data controller. The brand you're selling to is the data controller, so they have full say on what you can store, what you can use, and they're not always going to say it's fine for you to use that data for improving your models. So you have to think you might never be able to get that data from brands you're selling into to build your product that way. So.
Absolutely. You can actually really damage your future products by saying yes to the wrong thing. Absolutely. I want to jump to Brianna. Working in healthcare and getting data is yet another challenge. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yes, of course. So patient health information is very important to keep it private. So a lot of the times when we have, for example, AI company is essentially a LLM wrapper, they don't understand that a lot of time when the information is being processed, is being transferred out of the database. And in that case, you're running the risk of having the privacy be invaded because it's leaked into LLM, for example, for their model training. So for us, it's very important that to ensure that that doesn't happen. But also importantly, a lot of times the healthcare providers, they have very, very rigorous process when it comes to data privacy regulation. So we have to do all the accreditation, for example, the Cyber Essential Plus, ISO, GDPR, HIPAA, everything. And also different healthcare provider have different requirements. NHS has its own requirements. So it's a very lengthy process. It's purely to protect the patient data. But more importantly, we discover that despite all that, we're not going to easily say have access to patient data, because a lot of time the healthcare provider required to build an integration with the EHR, which is electronic health system record. But we realized that when we have to go through that process, that's at least 6 months delay. So what we decided to do to accelerate the process is actually just build a very easy to use dashboard for the clinician so that they handle the data. So from our side, it's actually really help us to accelerate the pilot process, because most of the time if you read about healthcare startups, they spend 1 year doing pilot and it doesn't convert to contract. And that's a really big problem. Also, on the other hand, the reason that we can convince the healthcare providers to trust us to use our technologies because our reliability. So when we built our AI model, we realized that a lot of time the medical data that we receive, we have to assess whether it's trustworthy or not. So if you look at medical research, for example, a lot of papers being published, but in the past few years, there have been a lot of fake data, especially data being manipulated because of AI. So it becomes really frustrating for the clinician also to figure out whether they can really trust certain research results, especially in secondary care when we're talking about oncology, cancer and drug discovery. So the first step that we did, which is the 2.5 year research, is that we want to make sure we develop technology to assess from the start the research, whether those are trustworthy research. And whether we can assess even if the healthcare provider providing us their knowledge base, we can tell them, hey, there's something in there is actually outdated based on our clinical guideline, the most updated one. And this is something that we can flag to them as well. So what we want to do is not only to create a tool, but we're really thinking about how do we really improve this process and then trustworthiness. And that's our moat in this case.
So you're trying to solve more than one problem for the client using AI.
Yes.
And in fact, I also loved your point about how by restricting your own data access and giving the data access to the client, you're accelerating your own process, which is beautiful. And something that I know that our second founder, Başak, also experienced as they were trying to figure out how to sell this to hospitals and healthcare providers by saying, we're not going to collect live data. We're going to use historical data to help you. That, I think, is a much easier sell compared to give me your data and I'll do what I can.
Yeah, exactly.
If I can move over to Didem, in private equity, obviously, just like in healthcare and education, data is sensitive, and data access is also a huge issue. How did you go around that?
Well, I having worked in very large enterprises like Microsoft, Accenture, etc. I always thought, of course, data is a given. I mean, data is the plumbing. You can't do much with AI without that. And of course, we would all be in different parts of that journey. Nothing is perfect with data, but private equity coming into the world of my clients was quite a shock for me because I don't know how much of our audience is familiar, but a typical private equity firm can be anywhere between 20, 30 people to maybe 150 max. So it's a really small firm. And the investment teams would just sit around in the same room, most likely, so they can talk to each other. So where is the data? Data is in partners' heads. They're on their phone. They're on the Excel sheet. Do you have, you could even use, like, are you actually on-prem or on cloud? And people wouldn't even know. Like, we just put it on SharePoint. Oh, okay, that gives me an idea. So that's what I learned that we are starting from. And we started conducting data maturity assessments and so on and so forth. Long story short, where we are adding value, I hope, is really start with basic data modernization and explaining, look, with AGI, already real or about to become very real very, very soon, they learn that their defensible mode is their data and IP. Like, if anybody can do your job, your differentiation is that you know, let's say, renewable space really well, and you have amazing contacts, blah, blah, blah. So I always explain, okay, data is not just your business, HR, whatever deal flow data. It's your LP data, investor data, it's your portco data. If you have that garden in some shape or form under control, then you're going to be stronger. Then the second shock that I experienced was, for years, I never dealt with CRMs, to be honest with you. Like CRM, like whatever, it's kind of a boring legacy tool. Not anymore, right? It actually, in my daily life right now, intelligent CRM, AI-powered CRM makes the whole thing. So opens up that garden, sucking the data from emails or whatever, makes a whole revolutionary change in our clients' world. So it's been very exciting, but totally different side of the spectrum, to be honest.
Exactly, and I love how you're pointing out that data doesn't always reside in one spot, right? You have to pull it from all these different things, and then some of them are not easily accessible. And like, pulling data from email or the head even. Not easy. Amanda, in learning, you deal yet with other sets of challenges. You're dealing with students, you're dealing with learners, and you're also dealing both in B2C and B2B ways. Can you tell us about the challenge of dealing with data there?
Yeah, I started also 5 years ago, and I remember talking to an AI technologist, and he said, this is years away of what you're going to be able to accomplish. And it really was years away. It was literally years away. It was 2 years away. But I got a provisional patent at the time for learners being able to take a questionnaire about the way they engage with the world around them, and it visualized their answers into traits in an avatar that they then minted as an NFT. At the time, the blockchain was in my mind, the way that data can then be owned by the individual. And it was really, really important for me to have that individual, again, understand when they put in data, input, there was an output. So some of the robots, they're little frequency bots, they're called, have 5 eyes, some have pink heads. And when I would roll this out to 10,000 students all over the world, I would go in and I would ask kids, do we all learn in the same way? And the audience would say, at the same time, 1, 2, 3, no. And then I would say, but it's invisible. And so let's actually make that visible. Let's start to see what data looks like when we put in inputs and they come out as outputs. From that, I really started to dive deep into what that meant in terms of rolling out a product that let the learner own their own data. And it's exhausting with GDPR compliancy, COPA, FERPA. There's so many regulations. Particularly obviously GDPR with UK, but there's so many regulations with schools. And also with schools, it's a lot of onboarding and a lot of questions. And how can some learners have iPads? Sometimes they're not allowed to have iPads. There's so many different rules and structures and systems, and schools are not set up for fast pace or scalability. And so I started working with an organization called Learning Economy Foundation, which I mentioned, and they started a wallet called LearnCard, and it was with the Lego Foundation. It was to teach the 5 skills of play to 4-year-olds in Denmark. And if anyone knows that is hard in terms of compliancy. And so they created this learning wallet that allowed for people to own their own learning data through something called the verifiable credential. The verifiable credential also holds actually our NHS health data. It's an envelope that you could put anything into in terms of data that you then own. So there's metadata built into it. It looks like a badge, a fun, cute badge, but there's metadata built in. So when you see that badge, you see, this is what I learned. This is where I learned it. This is who verified it. This is who gave it to me. You're seeing all of the data. There's an actual, you could trace it back to learning, and you could validate that learning is happening everywhere in all these different environments. And so they worked on that open source nonprofit tool for 8 years with MIT and the World Bank. And then they were given $5 million by Walton Family Foundation to bring that product to life in lots of different environments. When I met them, I said, I am exhausted, and it's only been a few years of trying to get this into schools and get people to understand this. Let's collaborate and build tools together that first start as open source nonprofit research tools, give those out for free, put the learner at the center, try them with different pilots and cohorts and experiences, learn from it, and then be able to actually raise strategic funding in order to be able to scale those products. So one of the first products we did was a Roblox analytics tool. It actually plugs into a Roblox game. It tracks skill development and allows for the learner to then be able to actually validate that they're learning skills in games sometimes. And then again, the learner owns that data. We did one with World Scouts. We're doing one with Oxford. We're doing one with all these different types of learning environments that puts the learner at the center. But for me, the way to start that, particularly in learning, was open source, nonprofit tools that can be leveraged by any learning environment, whether that was a B2B, whether that was a traditional school, whether that was a learner. In the States now, the money's following the learner, not the school. And I think the only way that we can solve this fragmented, disconnected education problem is by having utility layers, plumbing, infrastructure that supports every single learning environment on Earth. So that was the way that I kind of navigated that.
Amazing, thank you. 4 different stories emphasizing different problems that we're dealing with. And my last question for you, before we turn to the audience for a couple of questions, because we've got a packed agenda, is what would your advice be in terms of selling AI for the AI founders in the room? How do you sell AI? And feel free to include any war stories that you have in this. And let me start with Brianna for a change.
Right. So healthcare providers.
Good luck.
Period. That's
so we explore different markets. So the answer is very different. It also depends on the size of the system, from large to small. We also venture into the US, actually, and for them, it's very simple, ROI. And as you know, that adoption rate in the enterprise is very, very slow, and healthcare will be even slower because they're not going to use your product for their million of patients until they can prove there's patient safety. And now we are actually thinking about focus on Europe because we need to develop the sovereign AI, and also we want to become the Hippocratic AI in Europe. And there also is the imminent aging population issue going on in Europe, right, and many parts of the world. So for us in Europe, I think we get a lot of credibility, first of all, from being Imperial spin-out. And our head of AI, Professor Francesconi, is the researcher in explainable AI to provide this technical layer for the product that we're providing. We're not here to replace doctor. That's very, very important to emphasize because in the very early stage, when we approach any provider, it doesn't matter if it's primary care, secondary care, we even talk to vet, and they had this horrified look on their face, thinking they were coming in and trying to take care of their jobs. And then we understand the market a lot better because primary care, you're developing a relationship with the patient. So it's very different from the secondary care. And what we want to focus on really is where the problem is. All those repetitive work that can be automated, and this is the focus. So the first step is really to figure out what the problem you're trying to solve. And you try to narrow it down. Healthcare is so big, right? And also you need to figure out what specific area you focus on. You can't just say, I'm going to focus on all the industry, right? And a lot of time when they say ROI, you don't always have to follow their template, say it has to be financials. Because let's face it, you're not going to run a pilot for 3 months and say, hey, I can help you save millions of dollars. It's not going to happen. And in reality, even with enterprise, you need to spend at least a year or so. Only the big tech are laying off people because they can build internally. Any enterprise has the capability to build internally those agents, they will lay off people. But the rest of them, they are going through that process discovery, becoming the tech company really to build agents. So until that happens, you really need to help them understand the problem you're trying to help solve. So including, for example, where help doctors to reduce their burden, right? And what happens is that you're reducing the turnover rate. You're reducing the turnover rate in healthcare, right? And this is something they're not thinking about. They're thinking about the cost, but the cost of hiring people and getting the talent is even higher. And right now you can see US from West Coast to East Coast, there's nurse strike. What are they going to do about that, right? So those are the problems are actually happening. So when you're approaching those customers, and this is the example you're telling them, right? So find the right ROI using AI is another question because this is new. It's just happened in the last couple of years. And also we are talking about right now, it's very clear in the next couple years, it's really just agent development. Who develops best agent is going to win. And if your product is the agent, right? And if it's not doing what it's supposed to do, you can see the data. You need to figure out how to improve. And the product is important as well. And you need to have an excellent team. Our team is very, very small because we don't need a big team. Why? Because we have AI. And this is how fast AI is. And unfortunately, you got to move fast. And without the combination of all that, it's just very difficult. Yeah.
Thank you. And I also love that you brought out the elephant in the room when you're making these sales, which is, am I going to be out of my job if I buy this product, right? From the buyer's point of view, this is a huge deal. And sometimes these decision makers are high enough, but, if there's an entire team that they're dealing with, then we need to be careful. Pippa, what would your advice be for selling AI?
I think in the beauty industry is quite specific. The pain point is super clear for brands and retailers. They're all providing customer service generally. And so a way to do that 24/7 without paying someone to sit on live chat all through the night is like very clear cut. And then we have a lot of metrics around ROI as well that are really compelling. So that side is more straightforward. I think the challenge we have in beauty is so much is down to brand, and brands are so protective of their brand, and there's this probably across lots of industries, but I think beauty is quite slow to adopt technology of any type, and no one really knows what AI is in that world, and they're skeptical. So normally I take them a little bit through the journey of how we built our AI, which really was very human-centered in terms of the data that we use, its real skin experiences, all the subject matter expertise, and kind of just explaining, how one goes about building AI in the first place, which I think is just a huge gap in the beauty industry world. And that does resonate. I think it really helping brands really understand that and not be scared of it and actually realize the opportunity has been kind of one of the things that's helped us be really successful in the industry. And then, of course, we have to, when we onboard customers, they test it to death, basically, before it goes live. And that process is kind of part of onboarding, just so they can validate that it's all their nuanced brand philosophies, it's answering correctly, and, all that side of things. So actually just being able to demonstrate that in their own brand is kind of an essential part of our process. I think probably always will be.
Amazing. And of course, another problem that you're identifying here is that, the customers that you're selling to are not necessarily knowledgeable about AI. Mm-hmm. So you need to reassure them and make them understand what AI is doing. And that is a big issue as well. Mm-hmm. Amanda, you're trying to change the educational world, which I'm very excited about. But that's also quite challenging in terms of telling customers that, this is the way that people are going to learn. And you're, in a sense, you're a trailblazer here. Can you tell us how difficult that was and what are some tricks?
Yeah, I am obsessed with the 7th level. I wrote a book about it. I had a marketing agency for 10 years, and the 7th level is defined as literate thinking when personal values and beliefs align. It's when you feel deeply connected and resonate really with, again, a message, a product, a job, a brand. So I've done a lot of sales for myself and for companies all over the world. And I think we all are salespeople, by the way. You're constantly selling. It's a meaningful transaction between two human beings, whether you're trying to get someone to work with you, whether you're trying to someone to be friends with you, whether you're trying to come to an event. You're always selling. Everyone who thinks that they don't have to do sales is 100% wrong. You're all salespeople. And I think the number one priority, especially when you have a message that is trailblazing or a little bit, again, jarring, is to really ask a lot of questions and to learn about what are the pain points that are just struggles for humans. What are the things that are standing in the way of that human in front of you, and how is it making their life harder? And I think that AI is really, and maybe this is a bit of a contrarian way of thinking, is like saying a few years ago that you have a company that has a website. Like, I do not think you lead with the feature. You don't lead with the tool. You lead with how you're solving the problem. And then from there, when you get the head nod, because you've actually listened to the person, you said, wow, I've heard you said this. I've heard you said this. This is how I can support you. And then they say, how can you support? And then you actually say, well, this is how we do it. And the way that we use AI to support is X, Y, and Z. But you're not starting with AI because, to your point, these 7 levels of engagement, level 2, unsystematic engagement, when you're confused by the messaging, you never want to make people feel inferior. You never want to start talking about something that's over their head, and you then have no idea that you've lost them before you even started speaking. And so start with them. Ask questions, identify their problem. I used to call it brand acupuncture. Find the pain point. Then, in a way that's really clear and easy to understand, bring them along with you on the journey and tell them how you're going to solve that problem, whether it be with AI or taking information out of someone's head.
So one of our takeaways from tonight will be, at least for me, AI is only a tool, and the sales process haven't changed. It's just that we're selling products that are powered by AI, solving, hopefully, problems faster, cheaper, and better.
Exactly.
Dida, can you tell us a little bit about selling AI to these private equity firms, financial firms?
I think I've been a bit lucky. Maybe I'm going to share 3 points. I hope that will be valuable takeaways for our audience. First of all, I say I was lucky because we actually didn't sell or market any. It's all word of mouth, and a client recommends us to 2 more LPs and this and that. And even Goldman Sachs came and asked, like, I didn't know anybody at Goldman Sachs asset management team, and that's how I started my business. So the first point I want to make is that just coming here from an LP panel where investors said openly, I'm not going to give my money to any private equity firm who's not internalizing AI and buttoning up their portfolio, because this is real. If you're not there, I can't trust you with my money because you're already behind. So there is a pull. That's what I'm trying to, hopefully. And after years of doing very large enterprise AI transformations, I feel like actually I don't want to waste my time with people who don't get it as of February 26. You know, I mean, if they are still debating if this is a hype or something else, then maybe they deserve to be left behind. I'm sorry. Number two, so don't, like, if you want to sell, but sell it to the really right audience that's worth your life. Exactly. Secondly, so there is this pull, first of all, either by their investors or by their smart investment teams and so on, where there is this young, smart Oxford PhDs and so on, like, I should be using these LLMs. Why am I wasting my life 100 hours per week not using Copilot or at least ChatGPT or something? So there is that pull from that. And once we meet the client and listen to them before we speak, I sometimes have this AI transformation sales, let's say, speech that in exchange I need to do, which is different depending on the role, depending on the seniority of the person. So because these partners, or there is a little bit of age generational gap in feeling comfortable with this technology, which is very understandable. So the way I explain it to partners who are usually 50 plus is, look, you cannot say, I'm going to do my valuation model in my hard copy notebook. I'm not going to use Excel. It's the same thing with AI. Mm-hmm. Like today, if you're not using AI, it's the same thing as trying to do any business without internet or financial modeling without Excel. So shall we talk about this? Because your team gets it and they want it. It's just that you want to debate the investment or blah, blah, blah. So that's the second point. It's just that different characters. We also, because I highly believe in inclusive AI, we have to bring everybody along. We also train EAs and legal, HR, who don't have to do anything with AI, shall we say, in their day-to-day, maybe. But that's a different character, different role that we have to also empathize with, to Amanda's point. The third point I wanted to make is basically we have to, I am a mother, and it's not just this technology is so impactful at such a large scale at society. I want to sleep well at night. So I always explain why responsible AI is so important, why we need to take talent transformation, compassion. Of course, people will be worried about their jobs, even if you're a brilliant, whatever, graduate or investment professional. You should be. I mean, it would be a bit weird not to think about that. So that compassion, which is genuine for me, because I was in the Copilot team at Microsoft. Even I woke up one day and said, how do I add value? If I'm thinking like that, what does Joe Schmo on the street thinks about these technologies, right? Having that empathy and showing that you genuinely care, not just about business impact, but humans, in terms of their AI adoption, upskilling, and the opportunities it brings up. The genuine opportunities, like entrepreneurial opportunities, professional, etc., sells itself. And I think that's why, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but in less than 2 years, we won 5 awards, which we didn't do anything. I think people are hungry for that care, that genuine, compassionate, which I think, I'm sorry for the male in the room, but it comes naturally as part of being a female founder or female business person. Mm-hmm. You just care. You can't help it. You sometimes think, like, I wish I cared best. But anyway, sorry,
absolutely.
Those 3 resonate.
Thank you so much. These were so valuable for me, and I know for the room. We have little time, so I'm going to take one question from this side of the room and one question from that side of the room. And I'm going to ask 2 founders to answer each time, if that's okay. So if this question is particularly relevant, go for it. All right, first question is coming.
Yeah, I want to ask about the starting point of your founding journey. So do you also have another full-time job and also maybe still in your studies? So how do you manage the workload in general?
Great.
I can maybe take that because I debated in my mind. I was at Beauty Pie when I decided to launch Renewed. I was on their sort of launch team and had been with the business for about 2 years when I really knew I wanted to do this. And I spoke to a recruiter and I said, "Oh, do you think you could get me like a part-time job in this industry so I can reduce my hours because I've got this idea?" And he was like, "Not really. Why don't you just ask your boss?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe I will." So then I asked my boss and she said, "Why don't you do 4 days a week with us and then you can start your thing." And then as I was growing it on the side, I was like, "I think it's getting hard now." And she was like, "Do you want to do 3 days?" And then we hired people in the team there who then obviously ran it when I left. So I would definitely say if you have a full-time job and you can cope with an income of a 4-day or 3-day, 3 days is really hard actually. I would say 4 days is fine. You can kind of squeeze 5 days in. Once you go to 3, it's like, I don't really know what's going on actually. But I would say that if that is an option, you should definitely have that conversation because I was really surprised that they let me do that. But if you've got a good boss and they are accommodating, then it's worth trying. And that really allowed me to like dip my toe in, build up a presence. I'd done about 1,000 skincare routines on my own alongside that. And then I ended up on the BBC News talking about it and had like just inundated with requests from around the country. And then that was my like, okay, I'm ready. I can leave the job now. I've like validated this enough for myself.
Amazing. Who else wants to go for that? Brianna?
Yeah, sure. So previously I was in VC. So when the AI boom started, I decided I want to join the other side. And it was all really about timing. So one of my connection reached out to me about this Imperial spin out. And it's a group of professors, researchers, PhDs, and because my experience in deep tech, so I literally started a personalized accelerator with the team to prepare basically for commercialization and figure out the product, etc. I think at the time I was really exploring the AI, the use cases, what the future is going to look like. So for me, at the time, it was also a learning opportunity because I'm working with Imperial, AI, computing researchers. I mean, you can't really find it anywhere just on any day. And also for me, as a female founder now, before I was supporting female founder, and then now I get to kind of step in that shoe and then have that experience to really truly understand. And one of the experience that I had doing fundraising is that at least 50% of the time when I speak to VC, there is a female VC. So diversity is so important, and I think that my team appreciate that. And then also one of our technical co-founder, Professor Frances Tony, she's also a female professor in computing. And also my 17-year-old is going to uni this year, and I really want her to have that.
It's like you're 17.
She's actually here.
Where are you? Raise your hand. I want to see you exist.
Yes.
Wow. And I want to give a shout out to her because she's also a female founder. She started her nonprofit STEM magazine, and she's looking for sponsors. So so that everybody knows. Very proud.
Love that.
Yeah, so.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And, these answers also show me how important it is to already have a network before you start your business, because all of these stories really bring in the network from their previous jobs or from their previous environment in order to find the opportunity and then to actually start to work on the opportunity. Let's take our second question. I don't decide. I think they are our MBA students decide, so go for it. There you go. We have a winner.
Hi, thank you. It's Rosalia here. I've got a blended question. One that is, what do you do when your USP is you? So my clients could go to ChatGPT and they do, and they're like, oh, but Ros, like, they actually call me Ros GPT. And they're like, but I want to work with you. Mm-hmm. And then I tried to, this summer I vibe coded my own platform so I do branding and marketing. And everything I do is personalized and bespoke to my client. Mm-hmm. And then I built this app and got really excited with it. But it's actually really shit. Like, as in, because I feel like what do you do when you feel like you've built it? You're proud because you built it. Because I was like, I didn't even know I could do this. But then you look at other platforms, you're like, but someone's done it better, like SEMrush or HubSpot. I'm like, I'm not them. I'm never going to have that budget right now. And my idea is just so, like, you can't compare it. But then I don't have good ideas, so I just don't have any. I literally run out of ideas because I'm not in that field. Like, I'm literally being honest. I was like, I literally can't think of anything else to do.
But I think you're raising a really important point there, which is
I feel like my foot's on the gas. I'm like, go, yes.
Yeah, first of all, it's a roller coaster. That's sure.
Yeah.
But I think there's that additional challenge in AI, which is that, you might be building something, but the client is also on the side learning how to use AI, and at some point they might not need you, right? I mean, that's also a real.
Yeah, I want to replace I actually took that
Let's
question.
give our founders a chance.
I can
Amanda, go for it.
definitely answer this one. Yeah, I could definitely answer this one. So what I would say is what makes you is your expertise. And it seems like just from the 5 seconds that I heard you really like to work with people. So that's the thing that makes you really good at what you do, and it's the thing that you like. So don't outsource that. Also, that is the thing that that's not scalable, you as a person, but again, it's what makes you great at what you do. What you can outsource are all the other things that you don't like with AI. And so potentially that's getting clients, that's doing social media, that's whatever that may be that you do not like about your actual job, that you need to have. I had an agency for 10 years. I did not like copywriting. I had to work with a copywriter to get my thoughts and to finally just get it right. And I'm still kind to ChatGPT and to Gem, all my AIs, but they get me. It gets me, right? And so I'm able to scale that at a faster pace. Same thing with designing decks. Whatever it is that you don't like, in order to get you to do the things that you do like, do it for yourself first. Actually use the tools for yourself so that you can scale your business, do the things that you're good at, see what works, doesn't work, test it yourself, and then decide if you even want to do a tool for other clients, but do branding and marketing for yourself and leverage technology in order to be able to make you better at what you already do.
Beautiful. Didam, I want to ask you similarly, I think this raises an interesting tension here. How do you ensure that you have a business once your clients have learned how to use AI?
Interesting question. So maybe it's my, full transparency here. Maybe because of having worked in big tech for decades, I always, first of all, I'm not fearful of going out of date or moving to the next thing, whatever. To me, it's exciting. I don't mind ambiguity. I somehow feel I will be fine. I don't have this anxiety. Whatever. It's not like I have super high expectations of financial or this or that. I'll be fine. So that's first, that gut feel that you are fine is quite important, I guess. Number two, I get bored easily. So to me, whether AI gets me first or I get AI first is a big question mark, which brings me to my final point. Just coincidentally, a couple of weeks ago, one of my clients wanted to have coffee, which turned into a 3.5-hour conversation, which I listened to him most of those hours, like Italian guy and very talkative. But then the thing is, he said, Didam, I think you should be a searcher. What's a searcher? Search fund. Did anybody hear of search funds? Yeah, very interesting. So search funds are basically, he said, you should buy companies. I am happy to invest in you, he said, but maybe it could be co-investment, doesn't matter. And you become the new CEO or operating person, grow it, because it's a healthy company. It's not a turnaround situation. It's a boring, steady, successful company. You turn it around with AI transformation, grow it at 10x, whatever x, and sell. And he said, this is what you should be doing. So my answer to you is I am super excited. Like, oh my God, I love my business. It's growing healthily. So far, so good. But this is also exciting for me. And by the way, who knows search funds? It's actually my client audience as well. So it's a win-win-win.
Anything's possible.
Whether I do search funds, whether I become, or it's almost irrelevant. I may or I may not, but there's so much to do. I think the point is, the sky, it's the universe that is the limit to human ingenuity. As long as we believe in ourselves, we break our glass mental ceilings. I mean, we are our own enemy. I would say 99% of the time. No one else, not AI or not whatever, bosses. So we just need to execute.
Thank you. I have nothing better to say. Thank you so much. So the second part of the evening is about ecosystem builders. So just like our founders, we need everyone else, the investors, the ecosystem providers, the community builders. And we're going to have 2 pitches for those. And then we're going to have a second panel where we talk to some of these important ecosystem builders.
Exactly. We can invite Fran to the stage, please. By the way, we're not going to give like long breaks, but we will wrap up soon and we will have food and drinks. But if you need to use bathroom, please to do so. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Yes, I have the mic. Good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm Chema Nguyen, and I'm the co-founder of the Center for Finance, Technology, and Entrepreneurship. And I also serve as chairwoman of Global Women in AI. CFT is a global educational platform to upskill, reskill professionals in finance to understand technology and regulation across the world. And what I have witnessed over my 10 years building CFT and being the CEO of CFT and chairwoman of Global Women in AI, I've witnessed a very big gap. Today, we don't have enough women in our AI industry, and it's very challenging. Why? Because we want to make sure that women can have a place and we can build an AI inclusive workforce. So over the past year, what we have done is we have, with my team, set up this Global Women in AI, which is a large ecosystem of women driving change in AI, because we want to change. Today, only 1/3 of the AI workforce are led by women. So these Global Women in AI now welcome women from 100 countries, and we're bridging, of course, education. We are providing mentorship, leadership pathways, collaboration between women, inspiring female founders, and we know with Pinar there's a lack of them, so we want to make sure that they are seen, they are supported. We want to make sure that anyone that is driving change in a bank, in a tech, as investors, but also driving change with policy, are part of the Global Women in AI. And then after that, bringing them visibility and advocacy. We want to make sure we can welcome you all. It's free, and it's to support you all. So if you are keen, join it. It's a free membership so that we can help you to grow and be part of this industry together. My ask now, I know I have to be quick. So we want, and this is what we're really, really keen to do. Today, we know there's a lack of women founders. There's a lack of women who has the tools. Of course, we will provide the skills and the knowledge, but what I really want is to bring much more women to be supercharged. So we're building 10,000 women supercharged in AI so that we're bringing the tools to build. We need to have much more women to build in our industry. So if you are interested in this program, I'm also looking for sponsors, partners, mentors. I want, to support you guys. You can contact me. So there's my LinkedIn. There's also an email. My team is here. You can always reach out to us to be part of this Global Women in AI, an ecosystem to be together and to drive change in AI so that we can all thrive together, not only for us, but for our next generation, but also to bring the next generation of women innovators in AI. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks, Tina, for having me.
Invite Güçlü to the stage. He will tell you all about Startup Network. He is also one of the biggest supporters of tonight and also wider startup ecosystem. Over to you.
Thank you, Eda. I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I met some wonderful, amazing female founders earlier, and I hope to chat with more of you after the event. My name is Güçlü, and I'm the founder of Startup Network. We are the technical partner for your startup. I'll talk about what that means in detail and also what we do for female entrepreneurs in a moment. We have built more than 70 products in 16 different countries, most of them in the US. The US is our strongest market, in which we have built more than 20 startup products. And the number of the active users of the products that we have built have gone over 1 million globally, and 3 of them have made full exits. What do we do? Most of the time, entrepreneurs with strong skills in sales, operations, networking, do not have the technical experience to manage a development team. In the panel earlier, some wonderful remarks were made that you have to be always selling. And if you do development, if you're managing a development team, then you might not have time for sales. And also, especially in AI, building a qualified development team is costly. Real AI development is unfortunately confined to a number of startups in the world who have a lot of money. And when I say real AI development, I mean more than just prompting ChatGPT. I mean solving real life problems. I also have little time, so I cannot comment on the wonderful remarks, but I would like to talk to you about what you have said in the panel earlier. So what do we do for you? First, we plan your product with the potential to grow. And then we build your product with a team that has the skills to develop real life-solving AI products. And this team has technical managers who have solid accomplishments in the startup world before. And then after we build your product and we grow, we achieve something that is solid and presentable, then we introduce you to our network of global investors so that we can make a pitch together and receive funding. Because we sent these guys only startups with certain KPIs, they tend to prioritize the shortlist, the successful startups list with KPIs that comes from Startup Network. And about successful female founders, the head of our AI team, Meltem, is a very accomplished female founder. Before she joined Startup Network, she was leading 5 machine learning teams at a company called Delivery Hero, which is valued over $10 billion. And then we got the chance to transfer her to Startup Network. She decided, fortunately, to be in the startup world. And now we are building some globally competitive, wonderful products under her leadership. Some quick examples. Policy Note is used by US senators and Fortune 500 companies in the US. And you can ask the question, what is the new tariff that Donald Trump announced? How is it affecting my organization and my company? And it gives you an answer that is more focused, more to the point than OpenAI and ChatGPT. Another example from London, FlowSpace. It's a co-working marketplace. More than 700 spaces across London are on this product. And it's used by teams like Apple, Figma, and KPMG. And we believe that we have added great value to this product with AI search and smart filtering. And the founder is, again, a female founder, Yeva. We love working with her, and we hope to collaborate more with her to grow FlowSpace together. And yeah, we will build your product in 3 to 4 months. And if you already have a working product, we will work with you to develop your product to achieve product market fit. And if you scan the QR code and sign up today, we will give only the female founders 25% discount. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Güçlü, and also thank you so much for being our sponsor tonight. There's lots of food and drinks, and you're all sitting here thirsty. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a 5-minute break, 5 minutes only, for you to get your drink, and then come back, and then we're going to have our last panel, which is the ecosystem panel. All right? Go for it. We're starting again. And this is the panel that is about your startup and how we can make it more successful. So to me, this is really, in a sense, one of the big highlights of tonight, to show you the ecosystem builders, the people who are going to help you, support you, whether it's from the VC side or the Women Task Force and specific AI investors. And we have Amanda moderating this panel. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you.
Over to you.
I just stay on stage. I just don't leave. I'm just a permanent fixture. For those who are talking, I'm always hanging out. For those who are talking to each other, you're going to really prefer listening to people that can tell you how to make money. So while you're eating pizza, you might be eating caviar if you listen to this talk. So I would come over here and tune in. Okay, good evening again, everyone. So tonight's conversation, and thank you. I was an educator, so if I do say please stop speaking again, it's because, and I'm not treating anyone like a 6-year-old, I promise, but it is a distraction. So tonight's conversation sits at the intersection of AI, capital, and power. As AI accelerates, the systems that decide who gets funded and who gets to build matter more than ever. When those systems don't evolve, inequality doesn't disappear, it compounds. What makes this conversation important is that we're looking at the ecosystem from multiple leverage points at once. I was going to do a quick introduction, but I think it would be great if each of you just did a little bit of a quick, I used to say a tweet, but now it's not a tweet anymore, and I'm not saying an X. So just who are you, a little bit about you, and yes, please start. You can start in the middle. We'll start in the middle. Then we'll go left, then we'll go right. Spice it up.
Hi, everyone. I know that we're the last on, and it's been a long day, but take some pictures, but then put your phones down. Like, there's a lot of looking at phones in these sessions, so let's not do that. My name's Debbie Wasco. I'm a multi-exit entrepreneur. I've built 3 businesses to exit over the last 25 years, and I'm a busy angel investor. I'm also the co-chair of the government-appointed Invest in Women Task Force, and I've made it my personal mission, I suppose, to break enough bones in the UK to create the biggest funding pot in the world to back female investors, with a mandate for that capital to be deployed to back women-led and mixed teams in the UK. And I've made it my personal mission to make the UK the best place in the world to be a female entrepreneur, because at the moment it really is not.
600 million down and another couple of billion to go.
And that funding pot so far that we've raised is £635 million. So hopefully that's enough to do a bit of damage, but it's still not enough to do a lot of damage, I'm afraid, because £15 billion in venture capital is deployed each year in the UK. So it's been massively hard work. The we in this is my excellent co-chair, Hannah Bernard, who was at Barclays and is now at Nationwide. Without her, none of this would have been possible, because it takes financial institutions and an institutional shift in the way that capital is allocated in order to change the conversation for female entrepreneurs. So I think you have to pick your dog in the fight. And David has a different dog in the fight, and I'm sure Matilda does too. But mine is alongside my day job, which is that I chair 2 startups. I'm on the board of Channel 4. You know, I do my thing. But this is the thing that keeps me awake at night, because actually I think it takes a difficult woman, and it takes rooms full of difficult women, and I have a vibe about this room, to shift things. And I think we are all stronger in doing that together to show that women deliver better returns. better returns than men, that mixed teams deliver better outcomes. And so this is a conversation about money. Women need to get rich. They need to deploy their capital in backing other women.
Yes.
And that's how we make rooms like this the standard. Sorry, that was my intro.
That was tremendous. If someone doesn't do a merch line that says "I'm a difficult woman" and start selling that tonight, I will be very disappointed.
Have you seen that?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yes, please. Why don't we go to you and then we'll go to Matilda. Let's go to.
So I'm the token white guy on the. Hi, my name is David. I am one of the founding partners of Alma Angels, and Alma has a very simple mission: generating $1 trillion in women-led wealth by 2050. And we plan to do it by, well, you know all the stats, by diversifying the pool of check writers across the LP, GP, and angel layer. We started with angels 6 years ago. We're now a community of about 700 investors, 75% of them women. We've invested in 250 founders, all with at least one female founder. They're now worth more than $2 billion. 80% of them still alive, which is even better. And we are officially, as of last year, a nonprofit focused on community and education. And hopefully in 2026, we're also going to raise a microfund.
Amazing. Great.
Nice. Well, those are two quite good introductions to follow on my side. I'm Matilda. I'm a VC investor at Merantix. We're a $100 million fund doing pre-seed investments and incubation based in Berlin at the Merantix AI campus and also in London at the London AI Hub. And we invest at the AI application layer. And we've been building companies since 2016. I'm also an Oxford computer science graduate. And whilst I was there, I set up the undergraduate arm of the Women in Computer Science Society.
Beautiful.
Remember,
Incredible.
I forgot to ask, I actually teach at the Oxford Entrepreneurship Center, part of the OWN network, and as of next week, also EP1.
Oh, okay. They're very important. You should have started with that. Incredible. So together, these perspectives let us connect system design, investor decision-making, and founder reality. And that's exactly what I want to explore with you all tonight as we talk about what's changing, what isn't, and where real leverage for progress actually is. So I want to start at the system level. We're going to start with you, Debbie. From your work at the Invest in Women Task Force, what are the biggest structural barriers? I'm sure you could go on.
The simple question.
It's a TED Talk. Still holding women founders back in the UK.
60 seconds or less.
And which of those are actually fixable in the next 2 to 3 years?
So I want to be clear about this, that when Hannah and I were appointed actually by the previous government to co-chair this piece of work, nobody was remotely interested. And I mean nobody was interested, right? They were very happy to have conversations about softer problems. They were happy to have conversations about network, about mentoring, about advisor, about, you know, and don't get me wrong, my last business, my last exit was Albright. For those of you who knew the business, you know, I spent a lot of time thinking about how to create community, how to create a monster global sisterhood of women. I think that was a good business. It made a good business. But it did not change my life as a female founder, because no female founder in her history ever said, I'd like a little bit more mentoring, please. You know, she was struggling, always struggling to get her investment round together. And the singular defining point of my career success, I would like to think, is not necessarily my brain power or my execution ability or, you know, all those things, but it's that I'm really good at asking men for money. Right, really good. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a career. Like, you can forget it. You know, I set my first business up in 1999. A lot of you weren't born then. There were like 3 women in London doing what I did. So we just had to speak fluent man, and I'm good at fluent man. I'm very used to being fluent. But you know, when you think about it hard enough, it's not great, is it? And I think it lends itself to all sorts of inequality and weird rooms. So I think when Hannah and I were appointed, the thing for me that felt like the opportunity, and I think it takes a double act of an entrepreneur and a banker. I think that's why Hannah and I have been so successful, and we're also mates whilst being very different. Because the entrepreneur senses the moment. Like, we're pretty good on timing, aren't we? You know, remember my first ever chairman saying to me, and I learned this lesson the hard way, being early is the same as being wrong. right? We've all got a story about the great idea that was too early. I think the reason why this worked, and we stand on the shoulders of giants in the UK, and I genuinely mean giants, because Anne Boden had a crack at it, and Alison Rose had a crack at it, and they're amazing women that I feel fortunate to be in rooms with. But I think what hadn't happened was the headwind around pension fund allocation in the UK, right? That was the moment, I think David will agree, where you felt like, okay, hang on, we might be able to get a little bit of traction here, because, without nerding off about pension fund regulation, because of what has become known as the Sterling 20, but at the time was the Mansion House Accord and Compact, that meant that the government, and this was a Tory government initiative, very much lent into by Labour, was focused on UK pension funds backing the UK. So that's another thing. As well as backing women, we're just shit at backing ourselves, full stop, compared to Australia and America and Canada, right? So there was a bit of a zeitgeist where it felt like, hang on a second, and this is the second government review that I've chaired, which is how Pinar and I met each other, because I chaired the WASCO review in a whole nother saga in 2015. So I have a sense of how to get this stuff to work. And it was like, okay, there's a moment where the government has encouraged pension funds to commit £350 billion to back the UK. So it's kind of a good moment to say, like, could some of that back women? Otherwise, none of it is going to back women. And that we would get political convening power to have the conversation. So here's a myth I really want to bust for anyone who's heard about the Investing Women Task Force. And I recognise that the pace of change is slower than anyone would like. I'm like brand impatient. That's kind of my number one skill, as being a pain in the arse about things needing to be quick. But, but however, nobody gave us any money. Like, there's no government money, there's no taxpayers' money. There's like, no, Debbie, here's a nice funding pot. Like, we've had to stiletto kick doors down to make this happen, and to get pension funds and retail banks and British Business Bank to support this initiative. And the thesis is this: that a female investor is twice as likely to back a female entrepreneur as a male investor. And yet female GPs really struggle to raise funds. They struggle to raise funds, and when they work in funds, they struggle to have any economics in the fund, right? So you see that time and time again. So it's like, okay, we have to create incentive, because nobody's interested in hearing a load of women moan. They're like, moan at home, we don't care, right? So it's like, okay, well, what's the incentive? The incentive is the bane of anybody's existence is raising money, whether you're a fund or a funder or a founder, all across the piece, LPGP, founder. It's annoying, and it's time consuming, and it's hard. So it's like, okay, if you can create a capital pot that is there to incentivize female investors to be part of a team, female funds to raise funds, and female entrepreneurs to find and be part of all male teams. So we can all do the stats, but just to be clear, 2024, 87 pence in the pound invested in venture went to back a business with no woman in the cap table, right? Just the bro economy. Wow. So we're not cutting, right? Wow. And actually, I'm afraid, because I've just seen 2025's numbers.
It's not better.
It's not great, girls, right? So, and because there've been so many massive fundraisings in AI. So the Synthesia, and I'd be really interested in your perspective on this, keeps sending us backwards. Because actually, and with this room, we're not at the table in terms of AI businesses, so the stats get worse, not better. So if you can create incentive and say, the 87 pence in the pound who couldn't find a single woman that they thought might be useful to work with, well, if you do find women to work with, you're going to be more likely to raise capital. For women-led funds, here's capital for you to invest. For all male GPs, cut women into the GP. That felt like a way of driving systemic change. It's a very long answer, so I will stop. But so it's been super difficult. At the beginning, nobody was interested. Then I think it always gathers a bit of momentum. So we were very fortunate with Barclays and very fortunate with M&G. And to toot both of their horns, I think without them, none of this would have happened. And M&G as a fund, I think, has been very, very focused on backing diversity out of its Catalyst fund, and they were the first allocators. And then you've kind of got enough momentum to be dangerous. And I think we do have our first female chancellor, and she has been hugely supportive, and she's opened the doors of number 11 and asked, what do you need? Government can convene. They can't force, but they can convene. So we've just got going 2 years in. We've set another target for this year. I would like to get to £1 billion. That feels like a significant number, but it's still $1 billion out of 15 billion, right? So it takes a village, and it takes the angel ecosystem, and it takes sector specialist funds. It takes a lot.
Yes.
But I'm trying to do one thing, which is to raise institutional capital to back female investors so that they can back more women like this in the room.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of problems as we've heard, but it seems like the way that you have also applied this to your business models is really ecosystem shifting. It's not actually looking at one problem and solving that one problem. It's looking at how that problem impacts this problem, which impacts this problem, and the way that you actually create
otherwise
it circular.
It's too small and it takes too long.
Yes.
I think that was very deliberate. So for the female investors in the room and for the female founders in the room, who are in my LinkedIn inbox like all day, and I see you and I share your pain, and I get it. I think the Investing Women Task Force is trying to shift the ecosystem by changing the investor base, because I think that's how we can do it quickly. If we can get more female funds funded with a mandate that capital from the Investing Women Task Force is only for the UK, so this is an unashamedly UK-centric initiative and can only back women-led and mixed teams, I think that's how we do it at pace to change the conversation in the ecosystem.
Absolutely. So talking, in terms of the ecosystem, let's go to you, Matilda, and talk a little bit about the barriers that you're seeing in early stage investors as an investor, because I think that when we think about VCs, right, we're thinking about distributing and allocating that capital, but to what we just discussed, you're raising money all of the time. That's literally your job. Raise, deploy, raise, deploy. So tell us a little bit about the barriers.
I probably can speak less on the fund raising for the fund side of stuff. But in terms of for the female investing topics that you were saying, I think it's so important that we have more female VCs. Because I think we have this idea in our heads of what an entrepreneur looks like and what an entrepreneur looks like in the AI era. And to be honest, I think it's a guy. And I think for male investors as well, they so clearly have this idea of the entrepreneur stereotype as a guy. And I think one of the ways we change this is by increasing diversity in the people who are handing out the capital. And I think that's changing quite a lot. I think I've noticed more and more fantastic female investors, especially in the UK, but I think it's not changing enough. And I also think that there needs to be more initiatives to make women feel like they can found companies. So I come from the very, very early stage of stuff. So we do incubation and pre-seed, so right at the start of people's entrepreneurship journey. And I just don't understand why so many of the women that we speak to, and I'm like, you should found a company, this makes so much sense, you're so skilled. One of the key things we look for when we look at early stage founders is overcoming adversity. I mean, I feel like women's lives are overcoming adversity, it just makes so much sense. So I just love to see what we can do, I think, as an ecosystem to make more women feel like founding is an option for them and something that they can do. And I think the more we increase this and the more we have, as yourself, more exited female founders kind of showing the ecosystem that this is a career path women can take, the easier it's going to get for the earlier stages, women to kind of make that leap.
Absolutely. And I think, 2% of VCs are women and 2% of entrepreneurs that are actually given VC capital are women. So we also need to include men, because that's 98% of the population that's giving the money.
Let me guess who gets the next question.
Yes, so to our token man, finally, no, David, I think I want to actually focus a bit on the barriers that you're seeing for female founders specifically with AI, because I think that it is such a huge opportunity for mentorship, for expansion, for growth, for being able to also learn as you go. And I think women are just such an unbelievable candidate for AI, but what's going on? What's blocking them? What's stopping them? What are you seeing in this space?
Before I answer that, I just want to echo something that Debbie said, because Debbie and I know each other for close to a decade now. And I've seen her going through the journey. She actually pitched my firm at the time, and I couldn't convince my partners to say yes. But I've watched the journey, and not just as a founder, but I don't think you understand what it means to move pension funds and allocators to put 50 million tickets. So it's organization A minimum ticket was 50 million. If you think fundraising is easy, like that's a whole new level. We've been talking about pension funds moving the needle. I was there in 2017. Data doesn't move people. People move people. And this one woman has moved not just mountains, but an ecosystem in the UK to drive that. So, like, recognize it. And yeah, the journey is still long. We still need to deploy, and return venture is decades into the making. But I think this is a stepping stone that transforms the ecosystem. Now to your question. I think the reality, and this is how, and this is true in general, I think when we started building Alma, one of the core things we understand is people don't understand how investing works. People assume that it's about the business model, the vision, the mission, the team. All that is true, but early stage investing, and I would say up and including Series A, that's 40% of decision making. 60% of decision making can be summarized in one sentence. Anybody want to guess? No, that's a word. A sentence from an investor perspective is, do I like you? That's it. Like, as an angel, it's so fundamental. I've been on investment committees where the discussion was like, yeah, but do you see yourself working with this asshole for a decade? And the answer was no. And of course, you don't write that in the investment memo, but it's there. And here's the secret that people don't talk about. Nature built us very simply. If we look alike, we have a higher likelihood to connect. So our challenge is that 90% of investors are middle-aged white men. Not because they're assholes, or there's no malice here. This is just bias, and it's natural. It's men and women have the bias.
It's pattern matching. I mean, that's the job, right?
Yeah, but that's on the deal flow side. But even when I need to decide how to make my own investment, it's like, do I see myself sitting with this person in the pub? Like, I'm Israeli Brit. I connect faster with other Israeli Brits. We have similar culture, we have similar narrative, whatever. Like, and that's true if you're a Nigerian Brit woman or Israeli British woman. Like, you connect faster on things where you're similar. So if you sit in front as an angel, and this is where we started, and I need to see, do I connect, do I see myself 10 years with this individual? There's a reason 60-year-old white men choose 20-year-old white men. The problem is, everybody's trying to change by showing you data. Here's the data to show that investing in women actually is better return. I have a report from 2015 from a VC in the Valley called First Round Capital, showing that on their own portfolio, if you have a female founder, compared to all male teams, they outperform by 68%. 10 years ago, from a VC in the Valley. Did that change anything? No. Why? Anybody here smokes? Excellent. No, but I don't actually.
Do you want his money? Mirror pattern. Come on, we all do.
Anybody, you smoke. Great. Do you know the people that smoke, or do you know somebody that smokes? Do you think the people that smoke know smoking kills? There's data for 50 years to show that smoking kills. Anybody stop smoking because of data? No, it's an emotional decision. Investment is an emotional decision, not a logical one. That's the thing people miss. So the reality and what we're trying to build with Alma is not to go and teach you about bias. We all have bias. Women have bias as well. All we need is to shift the needle from 10% of the investors being women to 50%. And naturally, like Debbie said, they'll invest more in other women because they connect. Like, it's that simple. An early stage investment is about emotional connection with the founder, believing in them. Then you build a rigor with due diligence and make sure you don't fuck up as a VC. But that's the reality that nobody talks about. So specifically to AI, one of the major challenges we have, because that's the ecosystem you work with, is fundraising is a lot about telling great stories, not about building good businesses.
Yes.
And telling big story is basically promoting yourself like crazy and seeing why in a super hyper investment ecosystem, you will win. And that's saying, I'm the best of the best. Most women I met in AI are actually the best of the best, but they can't say it. That's one of the biggest challenges. That doesn't mean that investors understand that. Because the perception they have is that you need to tell me, I don't need to understand that. Because investors are lazy. Right? So the challenge within that is good technical founders are very introvert. And again, this is pattern matching, going back to what Debbie said. It's not everybody. So that balance is always in the mix. So again, I can talk for hours on this, but these are just a couple of observations now. And again, there's no right answer or wrong answer. This is trying to generalize what happens within that.
I think there's a build on that, and this would be something that I would say to all of the women in the room. Stop worrying so much about being liked and what people think about you. Yeah. I think that there's an additional layer, David, that holds women back from feeling a massive ick around self-promotion, or are they going to be judged, or what right do they have to, or they feel like they can't really bet. So for anyone who follows me on LinkedIn, I have an alter ego on LinkedIn, right? And it does feel a bit like Sasha Fierce or something. You know, like my kids sometimes, for whatever reason, I have 17 and 15-year-olds, they're merciless. And they find it so mortifying and hilarious, this sort of version of me. But, you know, fuck it. Like, I need to do that in order to be effective.
And it works.
Right, and it is effective. That's why I can raise big rounds. That's why I'm able to have the conversation with pension fund chairmen who are a bit scared of me that nobody else has been able to have, right? So I think you just have to see this as part of doing business and recognize as women that is our superpower. You know, we punch above our weight because at the end of the day, if we do something, the press want to write about it because our picture is more appealing than pictures of white men. It just is, right?
No argument here.
So I think...
This was from 10 years ago, just to be clear.
So this isn't particularly AI-centric as a point. Yeah. It's a founder point.
Yeah.
And it's a female founder point, I think. And it's something that I recognised definitely when I had Love Home Swap, which was my second exit, my sharing economy exit. And I got a sort of sense of, it was a really small business. And then we raised from MMC, and then we Wyndham led our Series B, that was the exit. A lot of that was driven by my face in front of the film The Holiday, which was the inspiration for the business, but flipping it after 3,000 times of watching Cameron Diaz, like I felt like I was going to shoot myself in the head. But you know, but my job as founder and my superpower as female founder is that people would listen, and it was more interesting to people actually than it would have been if I was a male founder. And I have my own story, as every female founder would have, because the thing that we don't tend to talk about is the mean age to found a business in the UK is 33, and that's often when, as women, we're having our kids. And so to power through that journey as founder, and I was a single mom when my kids were 3 and 1, adversity, which I'd certainly not planned for, mega adversity. And when people ask me, how did I do it? I can't really bear to remember. Like, it was shit and awful, and I missed a load of stuff, and it was really super hard. But when I invest, and what I see is you want people who will perform when their back is against the wall. And all my best stuff ever has come out of the fire. You know, and I think it's either Marilyn Monroe or Bette Davis or somebody like that women are at their best when they're in hot water, and I think it's true. So I suppose we can talk more about AI models, although the data that I saw today, I can't even bear to tell you what that looks like, and it'll be out in the next week or so. We can talk about that. Yeah. But I think what we really need to talk about is, as female founders, whatever the business, we have an advantage. We do. We've just got to see it. Because at the end of the day, we might not pattern match with the men in the room, but if you're confident enough, it's sure as hell a more interesting meeting for them, right? Yeah. And I think I've always got quite a long way with that, right? And I think that comes from recognizing that we stand out. But actually what we do need is more women with money who see that and who are there to back us because we're speaking their language. That feels a really important part of the ecosystem shift. But that's why rooms like this are so important, because we just have to stop worrying so much about what people think. Like, just stop it. Like, get on LinkedIn and start doing the do, particularly if you're raising money. You have to, because everybody looks there. And it is all about your personal brand, whatever the business, and you should feel confident about doing that.
Yeah, and there was a HBR, Harvard Business Review article years ago that talked about the questions that women were asked. The questions that women were asked as founders and the questions that men were asked. So an example would be something like, who are your future customers to men, and to women is like, how many customers do you have?
Promotive versus...
Yeah, and so I actually found that really interesting, and going back to that article, again, about smoking is bad, but how women are better, founders and are going to make your fund more money. They have so much up against them to prove their success. So by the time that they've actually gotten the money, they are only 2% of women so by the time, like, look at all that I've had to do just to get into the room, let alone to fundraise. So I want to go to you, because you are a female, like, you're less than 2% of the population, go you. So when you're in these rooms and in these spaces in which, you are not pattern matching your potential partners, how are you speaking up for those female founders? How are you telling the story on behalf of them? How are you getting buy-in from your partners? And that's also quite a bit of pressure. So just kind of talk through that whole narrative.
I think I'm very lucky at Merantix, where we have 3 partners and one of them is female, which is not quite 50-50, but it's, close. And we have a bunch of female founders in our portfolio. So I don't feel like our fund has a particular issue. But I think one of the things I always have to remind myself as well, because I am pattern matching, and when you sit in founder calls and most of the people you meet are men, and again, as I say, like, most of the successful founders that you hear on podcasts are men, you are subconsciously pattern matching to men. And I do notice myself doing it. And I think when I meet a female founder, I have to kind of be aware of my own subconscious bias, as crazy as that sounds, and kind of be like, okay, so these characteristics might portray themselves in in different ways than what I'd expect. And I think also giving female founders sometimes the benefit of the doubt, where I wouldn't give a male founder, but maybe that's just my, like, positive bias. But being like, in that first pitch, if they're not portraying how, like, a cocky 20-year-old university graduate is portraying themselves, then that doesn't make them necessarily not this, like, idea you have of, like, Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg.
Can I
absolutely.
But I'd actually be really interested, David, like, how you approach this at Alma Angels, and, like, what conversations you think I should be having with, like, the male investors in my fund to kind of make sure that they are not kind of having that subconscious bias.
So first of all, Diversity VC has a code and approach.
Yeah.
Diversity VC is another nonprofit focused on increasing the diversity in VC ecosystem. So anything from deal flow to hiring to running the entire fund. Most of it is just pro bono online. But I'll put 2 things. That research that you mentioned is from 2017. Dana was actually the first speaker at the first ever Alma event. And it says that both women and men VC have the same problem.
Absolutely.
So it's not just the men VC. Going back to what you just described. And I think what we learned, first of all, we only see deal flow with at least one female founder. And because a lot of male founders applied and basically said, we have a female founder, and when we ask how much she owns, it's 0.5%. I was like, that's a great female employee, thank you very much. But founder, we had to define that she needs to own at least 10%. Which makes, but again, in the form on online, you have to fill in the female founder ownership, because. But the reality that we saw, and I'll give a personal anecdote that connects to, like, answer your and relates to what Debbie said. I was working with early stage entrepreneurs as part of the Zinc program, if anybody knows, and I helped with the portfolio management. And one of the entrepreneurs there, I heard her in an event we organized with investors talk about. So he said, so what made you start a startup? What did you do before? And she was like, well, I worked for about a decade in Amazon, and then I joined another startup in operations, and then decided to start my own. And I took her aside, let's call her Jane. And I said, Jane, how many business lines have you started from scratch in Amazon? She said 3. What was the revenue in each one of them when you moved on? She said, well, about 100 million. And what was the startup, or the role at the startup? She was like, I was COO. How many employees when you started versus when you left? 30 and 150. I was like, don't you think it matters when you talk to a potential investor?
Wow.
And it's the same woman. And she jumped in, she had the startup, and she's built it. But that is an evidence, like, and what I learned when we're talking to women is asking a bit more questions to allow them to surface that. Because the problem is, it doesn't come naturally. It gets to a position, I literally created a workshop called the Trailer of You, to work with founders and actually how to tell the story. Because the reality I found is most women want to either to tell you everything or nothing. And it was like, here's everything I went through, or it was tough, I made it, I'm amazing, and let's go. Which again, like,
you know, it's interesting because now we can leverage AI. To your point, you said like pattern matching and then leveraging data in order to be able to do proper due diligence and make informed decisions. So I do want to talk a little bit about data, and I want to talk a little bit about AI, just like a little, because I think it's there's a reason why we're all here, and I think again it opens up so many possibilities for female founders. So I do want to talk a little bit, going to Matilda and then Debbie and then David. So let's start with you, Matilda. How important is access to high quality or proprietary data in your investment decisions, and how do you judge whether it's truly an advantage rather than a story?
I think it really depends. I mean, we invest like across industries in lots of sorts of different types of companies. So also like your definition of data depends on like what sort of company. So for example, I'm trying to think about the best way to explain this. So for example, in some cases, what we really like is deeply integrated AI application layer, where you're deeply integrated in the workflow. And part of the data you're collecting is just like how these companies function and how AI can be used exactly to kind of fit into these legacy industries. So it's not quite a sort of intuitive data collection play, but the proprietary data or like knowledge that you're collecting, no one else really has. And that's super, super strong. And OpenAI is never going to replace that. And so we love that kind of thing. Another one of our portfolio companies has put cameras into factories to kind of detect detect stuff on the factory floor, the inefficiencies. Those cameras are never going to be removed, and they have the data for this, and maybe as robotics goes into factories, they'll be able to go in and be that sort of like robotics manufacturing play. So that's super interesting. So I think data in both those cases is super important, but I wouldn't say. We hear a lot of pitches which go, we're just going to go in and collect this proprietary data set. And I think it's really important to think one level deeper, like what is that proprietary data set that you're collecting? How hard is it to collect? And what value is it really adding? And does that make your product better for customers, which is like at the end of the day, all that really matters.
Yes, and you know, data is positioned as the moat in AI often, even though it's not necessarily proprietary, but also it's where risk lives. So Debbie, and you were talking a little bit about seeing the data, and I want you to expand upon that, but from a system perspective, how do these same concerns show up when you think about long-term ecosystem health and trust?
Look, I suppose I wear two different hats. So with my Investing Women Task Force hat on, we are very, very focused on now mapping the data of what happens when capital flows change. And we're open to any way of doing that, because at the moment it's super clunky, and we do a kind of Bohurst annual survey, and then we're pulling so I think live data on all of this work and action is important. So we're looking at who we work with on that from a kind of AI innovation perspective, because I think then also it enables us to map how quickly things are moving. I think with my founder hat on, you know, post the Albright exit, I was very focused on not being the founder CEO anymore, if I possibly could, because I was knackered and 48 and kind of over it. So now instead I chair two businesses, one of which is an AI business. Now I am a consumer entrepreneur, and I'm a consumer-focused entrepreneur that has the female experience at the heart of what I do. That's what I understand. I'm a very simple entrepreneur in lots of ways, because I need to be able to put myself into the seat and the heart and mind of the consumer. But I've also had this amazing experience over the last year of spending a lot of time with the UCL AI lab to try and figure out what the art of the possible is in women's health, because that's where I'm very focused in terms of showing up and investing my money. And so we are launching a business called PHYT, P-H-Y-T, Physical Transformation, which is body composition scanning, like a DEXA scan, the same level of accuracy through an AI mesh. It's super exciting, and we've been working on that for a year with a couple of AI professors from UCL and a whole team. And the CEO is my brother, who I work with in Love Home Swap.
Awesome.
So that's a kind of great thing to be doing. We're raising money, and it's all exciting, and then go to market and GLP-1s and we cannot find women to work with. And this is me. Like, we just can't. And it kind of comes back to what's the academic pipeline of talent? Because, you know, fascinated to hear that you are an Oxford computer science graduate, but I don't know how many of you that I can't seem to find any of you.
Yeah.
Guys. So I think when I see in my teams now, Better Menopause, which is my doctor-developed supplements business, is an all-female team. That's kind of easier. We've got female menopause doctors. You know, it's primarily a consumer go-to-market plan with performance marketing. It's kind of easier to find women. But I suppose in all of this, one of the things that we haven't really talked about is what also changes the conversation for female wealth creation is female equity owners in businesses that sell.
Yes.
And that's my mission now. So my big mission is, you know, try and push the pension funds into this big institutional wall. When I show up with my entrepreneurial know-how, I want women in my cap tables. And what I can see in FIT is it's not easy, right? So yes, it's about founders, but it's also about talent. And it's also about recognizing that it starts early, this kind of conversation, but that if we don't have female equity owners in business, then this great wealth transfer never happens because we don't have enough women in cap tables.
I want to stay on the topic of data, but I just have to respond and say that there was also an article years ago about a woman who made up a male co-founder and then was able to actually get all of this funding.
So I just do you a sidebar on this.
Yeah.
Because I'm currently fundraising for both of these businesses.
Yeah.
Right? At the same time.
Yeah.
The clue is in the name for the Better Menopause. One VC who you will know, but I won't name, when I went in with the female CEO and the female doctor, and the female said, you know, this is great, it's great, Debs, it's great, it's you, it's great, we know you'll always get the outcome. It's a bit niche, isn't it? And you're like, no.
It's to all women. It's the least niche thing ever. Menopause is the least niche thing ever.
Go home and talk to your wife.
Yeah.
Like, no one's, what the fuck, right? So we've kind of got like that going on. So we're doing it, and we've got all the all-female syndicates in there, and Christ, David, it's been really, really hard work because I want to have an almost exclusively female cap table, so I'm having to take, which we haven't even talked about, $5,000 checks from women whom I adore, but it's just hard yards, right? And now this round is being pieced together. We've got 2 Magnolias in there, and they're trying to get money from the task force. Oh my God, it's like a real headache, this business. But bear in mind, after 2 years, the CAC is 60 quid. We take 84 off her at the till, right? And it's EBIT positive within 3 months. For venture capital, bar Marcus Syrie, who's the only VC in London who actually likes backing this stuff, it's really hard, right? FIT, my brother, Professor Caswell Barry, man, we go in, sure. What do you need? What's the pre-money? 10? Fine. It's slightly different, but it's not that different because I'm in both of the rooms and I can just absolutely see what the experience is. And the problem with trying to get more women to invest is angels, David, and yes. The checks are
small checks.
so small. Whereas on FIT, the one dude, you know, I've met him once. He was connected to $200,000 done. There's no female equivalent of that. Like we have 2 female high net worths in the Better Menopause cap table who have written that sort of check. It took like 15 meetings and on the supplements for 3 months, and women just don't. So I can tell you now that those rooms, those experiences, that engagement, the valuation, the perceived valuation at exit, your ability to bridge to that is just profoundly different. Even today, first meeting versus second meeting, different rooms.
On the flip side, sorry, just
no, please go.
The biggest ever round Series A or Series B for a quantum computing startup in Europe was raised by female CEO that took her 8 years to build a business, and all. But again, because it's quantum, so like, not because she's a female founder.
That's 100%. That is the potential, though.
Yeah.
But that is the potential, right? Is that that's what we're talking about in terms of AI and data and
It was about 60 million, if I'm not mistaken. But just to close the loop on that, and I think this is why it's people-driven, it's emotional, and it's connection. And just to show the other side, about 5 years ago, during pandemic, 2 German white guys raised 2.5 million. I think the name was the Pink Glove. And basically it was because periods are icky and women need a glove to take it out. And they raised 2.5 million.
Oh my God.
Google it.
That wasn't niche.
No,
But if
I mean, that's not
nobody like ever tested the product,
Oh. No,
but
but we don't need to
somebody there were enough investors that said, "You'll figure out. I trust you," not because they actually know what they're doing. And anyway, no woman has ever looked at it and said, "Yes, of course." But the reality, and this is like the difficulty of it, is that like, it's connection. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please. Okay, so I think, how are we with time? I think we're good, but 5 minutes. Okay, so rather than going into data, I'd like, David, for you to talk about, having built and supported founders yourself, where do you see female founders overcorrecting? And you talked a little bit about this, I think, about the talking too much or talking too little. And where are they still being too conservative? So is it also in the ask? Is it in that? Like, just talk a little bit to us about female founders in general.
I think one of the systemic challenges I see is that women get over-penalized for stuff, so they hedge a lot more. And it's, I can't say I get this. I mean, I get why, but the reality is that you should try to suffer through the pain because, and again, I realize that this is a middle-aged white guy saying to women that already struggle, okay? So I'm not blind to the situation. But the reality is, and like, you went through the rooms, you did the pitch, you bamboozled all the pension funds, but you were loud, you brought your 25-year-old white guy mentality in, and like
I always do.
Yeah, but it works because that's the language they speak. And
25-year-old white guy.
No, like, and the best example I keep giving. So we were thinking about raising a fund for Alma, basically to invest with the angels and so on, and we're calling it the Alma Alpha. Because we believe there's an alpha in investing in diverse teams, and alpha is created where you don't actually invest. And as you sign numbers, not enough people invest in this. And I had a phone call with an LP, potential LP. We weren't fundraising yet, but he's a hedge fund guy. And at the end, it's like, well, David, this is nice and impact and cool stuff, but can it really make money? And then I flipped the switch. I was like, dude, you don't understand. This is a double arbitrage play. And a hedge fund guy heard double arbitrage, like, okay, what do you mean? I was like, listen, the average woman, if she commits to actually start a startup, she's fucking in. She went the next 10 years ahead. She has a plan, because she usually either takes care of kids or family, so execution risk, she's committed 200%. So lower execution risk. But more importantly, this is an opportunity because the market doesn't invest. So for the same amount of investment, we get better percentage. It's
wow, genius.
Within 2 minutes, the guy was like, so when are you starting to fundraise? Because like, but that's the reality. Like, it's the same guy investing in women versus, holy shit, there's an alpha here. And the reality, when you talk to investors, they invest based on 2 emotions. Either they care enough about this, or they're greedy enough about this. And if they get greedy enough, they don't need to care. People invested in Uber, and the guy was a dick.
That's accurate.
Like, but it doesn't matter. If they can do care and greed, even better. Your job as a founder is take them on the journey from fear, which is, does she know what she's doing? Has she actually thought about all of this? To, holy shit, she can make me shit tons of money. And like, I'm not saying it's easy. Each of you has to develop her own path. Doesn't have to be the 25 white guy mentality. But you cannot avoid it that's the audience you're pitching to. And finding that balance and your own story and narrative within that. And realizing they want to hear that because everybody else, the other white guys, are pitching that. They will never build it, but they're pitching a glove can work and scale to billions of.
So in the next 5 minutes or 4 minutes, I'd love for us to end with Matilda, you first, and then we'll go down the row. If there's one message you'd want every female founder here to take away tonight, what would it be?
I think probably just to like have more confidence in your ability, and like going back to what I said before, this adversity topic is really true, and kind of appreciate how hard you've had to work to get to where you are, and how much harder you've had to work, and not to sort of like benchmark it against these 25-year-old men who've had it pretty easy, I would say, relatively. And I think also something else I want to mention, like you spoke about Oxford Computer Science. So there were 9 women in my year when I studied Computer Science at Oxford, and there were 112 people in total.
Wow.
So just to put stuff into perspective. Thank you.
you.
But I think that's just like one example, right, of kind of the adversity that we go through as women, especially as technical women, especially as entrepreneurial women. And I think that you should give yourself credit for that, I would say.
Absolutely. Debbie?
I would underline that and make a separate point. So my version of go into a room with 25-year-old white guy energy is, I think, have swagger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have a lot of swagger. I do. And even when I don't feel like it,
you fake it
I
till you
find
make
it.
it, yeah.
You know, I do. And I have to do that every day, whatever that means, whether it's the outfit or the thing, because I spend a lot of time in really big, scary rooms. And before I walk into the big, scary room, I often really don't feel like it. But I think you've got to find your swagger, and you have to up the volume. So I spent a lot of time in the States, because I commuted there to LA when I had Albright, which was a horrible time in life. But I was reminded when I got off that plane through global entry with profound jet lag into the office, I had to turn up the volume between 80 and 100%. Going into LA and being charming and British gets you absolutely fucking nowhere. Like, you they're not, I mean, whatever. You have to, so turn up your volume. Like, everybody in the room, turn up your volume. Turn up the volume of who you are, turn up the volume of how you pitch, turn up the volume of what you ask for, like, turn up the volume. So I think that's 1. 2, women do much more with less. So, true story. My exit that made my fortune, that bought my big house and paid the school fees and meant I never had to worry again, was a 53 million exit, right? Which some people in the room make, but I owned a massive chunk of that business. Right, and I think that's the thing to remember as women, and that I always come back to Marcus Sari. For those of you who don't know him, Vemrex, he's the dude. He will say 80% of his fund have been returned by women.
Yeah.
He will say,
he also invests B2C.
Thanks very much, everybody. This is how I have access to untapped alpha. The rest of you are dicks. Right? He said it last week at the Angel event. Because he invests consumer. So the thing that we haven't talked about is a lot of female founders are founding consumer businesses, way more than male founders typically found. So I think what he talks about is capital efficiency. So again, I'm sort of unrelentingly positive about everything, which can be a bit annoying sometimes. But I think the way to flip we don't raise as much money, it's 2%, which can be depressing. I spend my life looking at those stats, is we do more with less.
Yes.
So actually we can deliver outsized returns having raised less capital. So if I look at Better Menopause as a good example, we've raised £1.6 million to date. We're now doing this much bigger round because we've absolutely proven out the performance marketing economics that drive our EBIT. And if we'd had more money, or if we'd been men, or both, we might not have done that, right? But we absolutely had to. So I think we just build better businesses. We're more capital efficient. And at the end of the day, lose any attachment to what your number is on the day of your exit. And I speak as someone who's had 3 moments where money drops into the bank account. It's kind of a surreal moment. It doesn't fucking matter. The only thing that matters is what you and your team own on the day of judgment. Absolutely. It's the only thing that matters. So kind of have that in mind, because I think sometimes it can be a bit depressing when you read about men raising, valuation of, I've had it my whole career, and feeling like, I'm not, and how can I, that just doesn't matter. Use your emotional attachment to that. Turn up the volume and emotionally attach yourself to you and your team, for which read women, when you can hire them, getting rich. It's not the same thing. Not the same thing. So just go and build fucking great businesses.
Yeah. David, end us strong after that.
So to echo, I'll compare Starling Bank to Monzo to Revolut. Revolut, you know the valuation? Yeah, 75 billion. Do you know how much they raised? I think 30 bill with a B.
Wow. Oh, wait, what? 30 bill? Okay.
Okay, over a lifetime. Okay, something like that. 20 to 30. Don't catch me on that. Monzo raised 2 billion, is worth 4.5. Sterling Bank, worth 4.5 billion, raised about $1 billion. So the most efficient of them. You want to guess who was the female founder out of the three?
Most efficient.
I think the really interesting thing is all the advice we gave to female founders today about upping it and is advice I give to European founders when they go to the US. Because I basically say, any number you put, 10x it. Like, and or else, like Americans, they have to see with the billions in your own personal revenue, or they won't invest. Because everybody else does it, and this is like my own advice. The challenge I've seen, especially with women founders, but it's in general even Europeans, is you put the numbers you're 100% sure that you can reach.
Yeah.
So when you tell me I'm gonna make 20 million in 5 years, you will fucking make 20 million in 5 years. The problem is investors want to see the potential vision and dream of what happens with 0.01% success, which is 10 years from now, 1 billion revenue. Because if you continue growing the way you grow after the 20 million, you're actually gonna get there. But you're stopping at the 20 million versus actually the potential. The challenge is, but that means 99% of that is me failing. If you're pitching to venture capitalists, they expect that. The average VC has a 40 to 70% loss ratio. Sequoia loses money. The best VCs in the world invest and expect that at least 30% of their startups will wipe out. But if it works, it's amazing. So if you're pitching, not all VCs are like regular American VCs. The benefit in the UK is that you have EIS funds, for example, that allow you to build steady with 20% year-on-year growth. But the best example I give is Nike. Anybody read Shoe Dog, the book? Excellent. Do you remember the revenue growth? Launched in 1962, $50,000 first year, grew 100% year-on-year. Every year till they IPO'd in 1978 or 79. They IPO'd with 120 million revenue. No VC backing, 5 million loan. Okay? That is not a good VC business. Nike is not a good VC business. Can anybody guess why?
Makes money.
No. Took them 18 years to get there.
Yeah.
Standard VCs want you to do it in 8 to 9.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You're trying to optimize a business that may not be relevant for them. Taking VC money, standard VC, is like putting rocket fuel in your car. If it's not a rocket, probably just gonna explode.
Yep.
So there's a lot of revenues that allows to a lot of ways to grow the business that aligns with what you want to build. VC is a means, not a goal. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. That was more than 2 cents. Thank you so much. Thank you for all of you. So grateful. And okay, do we have time for questions? 2 questions? We could do one over there, one over there. Yep, one right here. And what we did before, actually, which I thought was great, was 2. Why don't we have one person answer this question and then 2 people answer the other question?
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you all. This was exhilarating in many, many ways. Gave us hope, anxiety, and so many different things to think about. So my question is about timeline of all the changes. While I appreciate as an AI company founder, actually 2 AI businesses that I found, what's the timeline for this money be available for women? Because I think women missed out on the tech bubble, tech money a few years ago, and now AI is moving so fast, we don't have that much time. And I feel like the world is going to miss out female-founded businesses yet again, and also female-founded businesses are going to miss out on money. So what do we do? Thank you.
I think this is a Debbie answer.
Okay, so let me just give you the
detail on the 635 million as a way of answering that question. So of that 635 million, 70 million has already been deployed last year. And the way that the money is being put into the ecosystem is complicated. So a pocket of the money, so far 130 million, is going into a fund of funds that's run by a female fund of funds fund manager called Bootstrap 4F. And they will start to deploy capital in the second quarter of this year into female VCs, right? So what will become very clear, and clearly some of those VCs will have an AI specialism, because it would be mad if they didn't, because the fund of fund manager is trying to manage the returns of the fund of funds. And a fund of funds is an institutional capital pot that backs investors. So that capital will be in the system this year. There are also partners, that money comes from British Business Bank, M&G, Barclays, Nationwide, and the Visa Foundation. And my job is to get that fund of fund pot up to at least 250 million. So for any of the female VCs in the room, not that you have a fundraising issue, but there are probably about 90 of them or so in the ecosystem in the UK, of whom I'd say probably 20% are focused on AI. They're all very aware of this, and that funds flow is starting. What you have then are investment partners who have ring-fenced new capital to back female entrepreneurs. The biggest of those is BGF, who have allocated an extra 300 million of new capital to back female-led businesses in the UK. So you should be knocking their door down. They are a slightly later stage investor, is the only thing for early stage businesses. At the earlier end of the spectrum, Morgan Stanley have allocated 25 million to back in more like 250 grand increments. So they should be tapped up for people looking for smaller sums of money. The British Business Bank have another funding pot, but all of that funding pot is to back investors. So I think that the thing that I would say is go to the Investing Women Task Force website and look at who to target. What you're seeing emerging are many more female-run VCs with an investment thesis that they want to back women-led and mixed teams. And they tend to have a sector focus. A lot of them are in consumer, because that's where women often play, but a lot of them are in health and health tech and women's health and AI. So people like Capital or Check, and exactly, Two Magnolias, who are investors in better menopause. But if you go to the Investing Women Task Force website, you will get the list of all those. So Capital is already in the system. It's always a pain in the arse. I think what you're seeing is many more female angel syndicates having proper muscle.
Yes.
So in my cap tables, I've raised money from 3 of the female angel syndicates. Alma also, obviously, but you don't yet operate as a syndicate. So it's kind of a hassle. I mean, it's great, but it's a hassle, right? The dream for a founder is a syndicate, because it's an SPV, it's one entry in the cap table. So we have raised money from the Helm. They are absolutely worth talking to. They're a significant syndicate. Blossom, which is also a significant female syndicate, and many of these are exited female entrepreneurs. Many of them are American. American women have just got more money, right? So I would look at the 2 of those. Yeah, exactly. And Wits End, if you know them. So Wits End is a really interesting community of female executives.
In Oxford, Claire Davenport.
Claire Davenport, Alex Mahon, who was the CEO of Channel 4, and Tamara Lohan, who founded Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They've got significant capacity too, and they work much more as a syndicate. So, it's bitty. But go to the task force, check out the female angel syndicates. It's there.
Great. I would like also. We invest.
Yes.
I did pre-seed, and I'd love to back more women. So you could also talk to me if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You should. Innovate UK has investor partners, so it maps a lot of them there. They focus on AI in general.
We have time for one more question over on this side. Yep, right over there. Right there. Can you raise your hand really high? Yeah, right there. Thank you. And then we'll have 2 people answer this. So David and Matilda.
Hello. Hi. I'm Buse. My question would be, I'm in the build industry. I have been a consultant. and being a female in the build industry already very hard. And I joined my forces with my husband with our startup. Now we are delivering AI automation for the build industry. For the fundraising, not only being a female with a husband, is that is that a bad impression?
Do you disavow your husband while you fundraise?
I mean, look, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Investors don't like backing husband-wife teams.
Okay.
They don't.
Or brother-sister.
Brother-sister's all right, because like my brother and I have made it this far.
Yeah,
My
you're not
sister and
gonna
I would last 30 seconds. My brother and I have built a business to exit. So people don't question whether we're going to fall out, but they don't love husband-wife. I actually did a version of this. Tamara and James Lohan, who founded Mr. and Mrs. Smith, are really old friends of mine. I was at Oxford with Tamara, and they talked very openly about how hard it was for them to fundraise as husband and wife, because everybody worries about what might happen. Actually, Hannah Previtt did a piece on it in the Sunday Times a few weeks ago. Their twist on it all was, for the two of them and their family, there's one source of income.
Yeah.
So to your point, they've got to fucking make it work. Otherwise, they're screwed as a family. So they kind of, but they definitely found conventional venture conversations hard. So I would just be aware of it.
Thank you so much.
You're doing it now, so there you go. But
yes,
you know,
we don't have any other option.
Exactly,
We're making
so
it.
you're doing it.
But just to add to that, yes. That being said, like family, brother, sister, everything is difficult because as an investor, when you do diligence, you say, what if?
Yeah.
So your job as a founder is to mitigate the risk. And it's like, this is what if, this is how we deal with it, this is how decisions are made, this is his territory, this is mine. Everything, it's the same with solo founders. Everybody hears that investors don't want to invest solo founders. 70% of startups end up being solo founders. Either the co-founder leaves within 2 years or something. But the reality is, because what you think is, what happens if a bus hits the founder and then there goes the business? How do we mitigate that? If there's two theories, doesn't work. You can't mitigate all the risk into it. But you need to show that you've thought about it.
Yeah, amazing.
We've been together for 10 years.
Good, yes. Give them all the stats. This is our anniversary. Great.
He bought me flowers.
Yeah, exactly. Here he is. See how romantic he is? Okay, amazing. Thank you all so much. We have some drinks, some networking. Thank you.